Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He's my co-host and producer, Zach Goodman. We are coming to you live from our Towson studios here on a chilly Saturday morning. Opening day was pushed back to yesterday because of severe thunderstorms that were supposed to come through the area on Thursday.
That almost really didn't happen.
They never came. It didn't rain till 7 o'clock, and it rained for 20 minutes. It was sunny and 80 to 85 degrees on Thursday. The Orioles did not play a baseball game. We moved to Friday. It was cloudy. It was about 55 degrees. The Orioles played a baseball game. They won a baseball game over the hated New York Yankees 7-6 to move to 4-3 on the young season. But it was chilly. It was a chilly one yesterday, and but it was a good one. It was a solid win. Felix Bautista, when he's on, man, he is unfair. Yeah. He is unfair. He started the game. Who was the first batter? It was DJ LeMahieu.
Yep.
LeMahieu was the first batter of the inning, and the first pitch he throws is an 85-mile-an-hour splitter.
Yeah.
When you know they're all sitting on his 100-mile-an-hour fastball.
No doubt.
And DJ LeMahieu's a good hitter.
Mm-hmm.
He's a professional hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And the swing that he put on that ball was awful. He was nowhere close to that pitch. And I was watching from behind the bullpens out in the picnic area, and I saw how bad his swing was. He had no shot. None of them had any shot. And I'm standing there, and the Orioles are up 7-6. He there's 2 outs, and he walks Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
And it was a pitch around. They're not letting Aaron Judge have an opportunity to tie that ball game. Right? And there's a Yankees fan behind me who at one point I saw during the breaks rapping to himself.
Interesting.
He was rapping to himself.
Well, maybe he's the next big New York rapper.
No, he was whiter than you, man.
No.
He was.
I mean, let's not assume that they can't be good rappers.
No, Eminem's a phenomenal rapper. It's just that I don't know if this guy he was a sight to behold. All of his gear was maroon.
Maybe some drugs mixed into the system. Who knows?
He was wearing maroon Yankees gear. He was very pale white with one of those he had one of those
the soul patches.
No, he had a goatee, but it was like
I could see you with a soul patch.
Ew, gross. It was the type of beard that guys that can't grow beards grow.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Where it's like it was fairly long, but just in the one center part on his chin. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I looked over during the 8th inning, between the top and the bottom of the 8th inning, and he was rapping to himself. There wasn't even any music playing. I'm like, what is this dude doing? And then they walk Aaron Judge, and he goes, yeah, he's scared of Judge. He doesn't want to pitch to Judge. And I turned around, and I'm like, I think we'd all rather pitch to Anthony Rizzo than Aaron Judge. He pitches to Rizzo, and I thought Rizzo was going to strike out.
Even though Rizzo had a better game than Judge. He was. Rizzo had outside of I think he had 2 hits in that game.
I think so. He smoked a base hit to right field. I saw it.
He did.
He smashed it.
Yeah.
And but he ends up flying out to left field. And of course, it's a pop up to left field, and you're like, and I legitimately looked. I'm like, please tell me McKenna's not in the game. Which I know McKenna's going to catch the ball.
Right.
I know he's going to catch it, but I just looked over and I double-checked to make sure it was Austin Hayes. It was Hayes. He came in. He caught it easily. The game's over. The Orioles win 7-6. We all erupt and cheer. It was just an awesome setting, an awesome situation.
Fireworks as well.
Yeah, fireworks. Colder than I would have liked, but it was awesome. Kind of a bit of I don't know how to say this, but it was kind of a somber setting. On Friday, big Orioles fan, a big fan of our show.
Yep.
Justin Labor, at Roar from 34 on Twitter.
44.
At Roar from 44 on Twitter. Passed away on, was it Thursday?
Thursday night, yes.
On Thursday night. It may have been Wednesday night.
I believe it was Thursday night because something along those lines.
Yeah, he passed away the other day.
No, I actually believe you're correct.
Yeah, it was Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. He passed away Wednesday night after a 3+ year battle with long COVID.
Yeah.
And the first time I was introduced to Justin, like he was following me on Twitter, but the first time I was introduced to Justin, I never met him in person. He was on Glenn Clark Radio on a day that I happened to be sitting in on the show. And you could tell in his voice that the toll that it was taking on him.
Yeah.
You could absolutely tell. And even when Grayson Rodriguez made his big league debut on Wednesday, Justin with 102 fever was tweeting about how the fever was going to have to wait because Grayson Rodriguez was pitching for the Baltimore Orioles. And then to find out that he passed away, and I was in a fantasy baseball league with him, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was in a fantasy baseball league with him in 2020 for the shortened season. My wife and I were in that. With Matt Pine was in it, I believe.
Yep.
I was in that league with him, and he actually tried to screw me on some trades. I remember he kept trying to get me to trade him good players in exchange for less than players. And I was like, Justin, leave me alone. But a really, really good guy. He actually apologized for the trades that he tried to make with me at one point. I'll never forget that. But
that's what fantasy baseball is all about.
Yeah. So, like I said, huge fan of the Orioles, a fan of our show, and just an all-around great person. And he lost his battle the other night. So it's been very, very sad. And you know that when Orioles broadcasters are tweeting about him, that he was a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I was introduced by Matt Pine as well when we had our podcast there for about 2 years, 2 seasons really, and yeah, just one of the most positive, nice people you'll ever meet. And like you said, I mean, you're one of the biggest Orioles fans I know. He's up there as well. Just huge, devoted, so much passion, and huge. Probably the biggest Adley Rutschman fan he'll ever have.
Yeah,
so,
his Twitter handle was Roar from 44, but his Twitter name was Adley Rutschstan.
Yeah. Truly a devoted fan and one of the nicest guys, one of the really, truly nicest human beings you'll ever meet.
Yeah, so a huge loss for the Orioles community, and it was a fitting victory for the Orioles last night. And I'd like to think it was in Justin's honor that they were able to go out there and beat the Yankees, who were off to a pretty good start.
Yeah, I think Matt said they did something on Masson for him, but obviously I was at the game, so I didn't see that. But I will definitely try to find that.
Yeah. So prayers out to Justin and his family as they go through this difficult time. Today's show brought to you by PressBox Online offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet with DraftKings. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. Orioles beat the Yankees 7-6 in the home opener yesterday. Dean Kramer, little good, little bad. He took a shutout into the fourth inning, gave up a 3-run homer to former Oriole Franchy Cordero. Then he got through the fifth inning unscathed, and he started the sixth inning by giving up a leadoff hit. And so Brandon Hyde pulled him in favor of who was the pitcher that came in? It was Logan Gillespie.
Logan Gillespie. Yes.
And Gillespie immediately gave up an RBI double.
I think that was the Anthony Rizzo double, I believe.
Gave up an RBI double. They scored 2 runs in the inning. So Dean Kramer's final line was 5+ innings pitched. He allowed 4 hits. Was it 5 hits? 4 hits, 4 walks, or 3 walks, which was a lot.
Yes.
I didn't realize he walked that many. I believe he had 5 Ks and he had 4 runs allowed.
Yeah.
So there was good, there was bad. The 3-run homer, like he's been giving up too many homers, and they're all on his cutter.
He hung that cutter right into the. I mean, you don't want to throw a lefty a pitch that breaks just inside of the barrel because they will crush that every time. Mm-hmm. They will crush that every time, and Frankie made him play.
And he
or Franchy or I don't want to mispronounce his name.
Frankie made
Franchy.
Frankie made him play.
Franchy
made him play.
That's not what I said. I don't know how to pronounce that name, so I will do my best.
His name is Franchy Cordero.
Franchy Cordero. Okay.
Franchy Cordero. Like Franchy, but Franchy.
Okay.
Franchy Cordero with the 3-run homer, kind of sticking it to the Orioles for not bringing him up with them. But now he's on the Yankees, who are also a very good ball club, and he has an opportunity there and making the most of it to this point. Orioles still come away with the victory 7-6. Bullpen has left much to be desired to this point in the season. We're going to talk about that later in Orioles banter. But we do want to talk about the good. Gunnar Henderson had 2 base hits yesterday. How hard did he hit that double?
Oh, my God, he smoked it.
That ball off the bat like as soon as he hit it, you knew the center fielder might as well have just turned his back and started running. He was watching the ball, dude, just run.
I hate to say, but I think a better center fielder than Judge, a faster center fielder, would have gotten there.
No,
like,
there's nobody had a shot.
I think Cedric Mullins would have gotten there.
No, there was no shot. That ball was hit like 217 miles an hour off the bat. It was an absolute missile. As soon as he hit it, I'm like, that ball has no shot. I didn't even know who was playing. Was Judge in center field?
Judge
yesterday?
was in center field.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Judge was in center field.
He's been playing there all year. They're having Hicks in a corner, and Judge is now their full-time center fielder.
Oh, wow.
Probably until Jason Dominguez comes up and debuts.
Well, I mean, Judge is 6'7". That ball was still over his head.
Yeah.
As soon as he hit it, I was like, I don't care who the center fielder is. That ball is down. And so Rutschman doesn't score. He gets to third base on it, but the Orioles end up picking up 2 runs in that inning. Go on to win 7-6. Rutschman reached base 3 times yesterday. Mountcastle's off to a good start this year. The 276 batting average is good, but it's not indicative of how well he's hit the ball.
Yeah.
He's been
a couple hard outs yesterday.
And he's been walking. He has a couple of hard outs every game, and he's been walking a lot more this year too, which is something you want to see from a guy that hits in the middle of your order. Anthony Santander had a nice little double yesterday. He still has to get the bat going.
Yeah, he's off to a slow start.
He's off to a slow start. The power hasn't shown up yet. But Gunnar Henderson, he had the 2 hits, but he also had 3 more strikeouts.
Yeah.
He has 12 strikeouts in 6 games this year, 8 in the last 3 games. He also has 2 multi-hit games in the last 3 games, so you take the good, you take the bad. What's your level of concern? We know he's going to figure it out, but is there any kind of concern for you? What are you seeing from Gunnar Henderson to this point?
I mean, I think the concern's low, but you had, a 40-game sample size, I believe, last year, something along those lines, where now teams have video on him. They know what his weaknesses are. They know how to beat him. And, these teams have so many advanced scouts that come in before every series and say, okay, this is how you beat this guy, this guy. You see with Ryan Mountcastle, he just gets thrown sliders because they know he struggles on him. But Gunnar Henderson, I haven't noticed exactly what it is yet that beats him specifically. But clearly these teams have figured out 1 or 2 things that they can really get past him because he's looked a little off balance. The timing hasn't quite been there for him yet. He's going to come back and figure this out, and he'll adjust as they adjusted to him. But I think right now, Orioles fans can't really expect him to be, the Rookie of the Year candidate that, maybe everyone thinks he is, because it takes time sometimes for guys to adapt and to start, understanding Major League pitching at a higher level. So he will get there. I just don't think it's, Adley Rutschman, it took him how long? Really took him a whole I don't know. I don't want to say a whole month, but it took
about 16 games.
Yeah, it took a while for Rutschman to get going, and it's a different situation because Gunner's played the majors before, but he's going to have to adapt to what they adapted to him.
Odapt.
All
right, Sheryl Crow.
Odapt.
Oh, Sheryl Crow over
I
here.
saw Sheryl Crow in Nashville. Funny enough.
It takes a little time sometimes. a little bit.
She did not play that song.
A little bit of Sheryl Crow over there. No, Gunner's going to be fine. He's the bat's starting to come around. What I've noticed with him is just he seems late on the fastball.
Yeah, the timing's been off
a good bit this year, and he also seems to be struggling with off-speed stuff. So I guess he's just struggling with everything.
With everything, maybe.
But
he can hit change-ups, maybe.
No, I mean, like he'll barrel a ball every now and again, but right now it seems like he's being fooled by some secondary pitches and the fastball at times. If it's up, he seems to be a little bit late, which was not the case last year. He'll get into a groove. He'll figure it out and get rolling along here. I have no doubts. Nice 2-hit performance from him yesterday. Second multi-hit game in 3 days. Grayson Rodriguez made his Major League debut on Wednesday. And when are you all going to start listening to your boy? Because I know what I'm talking about here. When Kyle Bradish got knocked out of the game in the second inning with the line drive off the foot, and they brought Tyler Wells in, I was like, I said it. And then I said it again the next day. What's going to happen is Kyle Gibson is going to start on normal rest on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, they're going to call up Grayson Rodriguez because it would be his normal spot, his normal turn. Who else were they going to call up? Drew Rom's not ready.
Right.
And people were like, well, Zimmerman or Spencer Watkins. Well, no, because Zimmerman pitched Saturday and Spencer pitched Sunday. Yeah. So they weren't going to come up. He's not stretched out enough for him to be an opener, and you don't want to tax your bullpen heading into an important series early on, albeit against the Yankees. So the logical choice was to bring up Grayson, and that's exactly what he did, and didn't get off to a glamorous start. He walked the leadoff hitter. It was his only walk in the game. He threw 30 pitches, gave up 2 runs in the first inning, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And I even tweeted out, I'm super nervous for Grayson right now. Rough start. Hopefully he can give us something over the next few innings that'll produce positive results. And boy, did he. 30 pitches in the first inning, 50 pitches the next 4 innings, 5 strikeouts, no more runs allowed. He only allowed the 2 that he allowed in the first inning. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts for Grayson Rodriguez. It was a hell of a debut.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay in the rotation for now. If they didn't plan on keeping him in the rotation, they would have sent him down.
It's going to be a little confusing because Bradish, I believe, is the best Orioles starter. I still think that. So when he comes back, they're going to have to make room. We're going to talk about that, obviously, over the next few weeks, but that's going to be a complicated situation.
Yeah, they think there's no fracture there. It's just a contusion on his foot. So they believe that he's going to be back and ready to go as soon as he's able to be.
Yeah.
Which I believe would be April 19th. Because
Yeah,
he went on the 15-day IL, retroactive to April 4th.
Yeah.
There's a 10-day IL. There's a 15-day IL. He is on the 15-day IL. So they expect him back as soon as he's able to be back. And then where do you go from there? You know, if Dean Kramer is still struggling, if he's still allowing 3, 4, 5 runs every start, does he get replaced in the rotation? I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But look, we've been saying it all offseason. It's a good problem to have. Mm-hmm. Grayson Rodriguez pitching well at the big league level, that's not a problem. That's awesome. And so far, he looked the part.
Yeah. Well, it's, Tyler Wells really was the guy that got that 5 spot. Yeah. And Grayson was the 6. So you were correct in thinking that it would probably be Grayson coming up, and that obviously happened. So Tyler Wells, to me, was the one guy that wasn't as sure. We were debating whether it would be Grayson before the season or it would be Tyler Wells. And Tyler Wells got that spot. But after Tyler Wells pitched, those 5 innings that were, just excellent. And he has
no hit, no walk.
Yeah, they were basically perfect. Only struck out 2, but still a really good outing. I don't think Tyler Wells is going to go anywhere if he's doing that. He's in that rotation. So Kramer, I guess, would be the guy out, but then Cole Irvin had kind of a rough start in his first. But then again, they traded for Cole Irvin. He's a pitcher, threw a lot of innings last year and gave him a 3.98 ERA for the A's.
And he's a lefty.
I don't necessarily think he would be out. Kyle Gibson, it seems like they view him as kind of the number 1. He started opening day, and he's going to get a good amount of starts. Probably 30 plus this year. So it's kind of hard to sit here and think about who would be the guy out when Kyle Bradish comes back. But again, these things always tend to work themselves out.
Absolutely.
Grayson was electric after inning 1. He was the slider, unreal. The changeup, no, it was okay. The fastball, he definitely missed his spots a few times. He was trying to nibble a little bit too much for my liking, but that's Grayson. I mean, he tries to hit the black as much as possible. But the slider is that one pitch. If he can get that down consistently, where he has the command, just a little bit better than he has right now, he will be unreal. He will be unreal.
I believe it was Nathan Ruiz who pointed it out, who's going to be on the show later today. Yeah. I believe it was Nathan Ruiz who pointed out that that his spin rate is down on his changeup.
Interesting, yeah.
And the vertical drop, it has diminished.
It just didn't look good to me
on his changeup, and that it might not be his best pitch anymore until he can figure that out. Yeah. What I noticed in the first inning is he was yanking his pitches. When he was releasing, he was pulling his throwing arm across his body, and he was missing outside a lot.
Maybe trying to overthrow a little bit.
Yeah. And you went in there, and that just shows you how important Chris Holt and Darren Holmes are to this team. Because he went in there, and they were like, "Look, this is what." When he came back out, he wasn't throwing 98 miles an hour anymore. He was throwing 94, 95 miles an hour, but he was hitting his spots. But then his final strikeout of the game to end his outing, 97 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So the
and
dude,
Corey Seager, I believe.
Yeah. The dude's got an electric arm, but they're teaching him how to use it appropriately and when to really ramp it up and when to kind of ease back a little bit. So it was really nice. It was really nice to see him not get off to a bad start, but figure it out and make the proper adjustments and go back out there and be dominant against a good Rangers lineup. A good Rangers lineup that before that series scored 29 runs in 3 games. And then they come out against the Orioles and they score 7 runs in 3 games. So it was, especially after what the Orioles staff did in Boston. It was nice to see. Orioles to this point, they're 4-3. They've scored 5 or more runs in 5 of their 7 games, which is nice. Mm-hmm. And one of the games where they scored 2 runs, they won the ball game 2-0. Mm-hmm. So the bats are working. The starting pitching is starting to kind of maybe settle in a little bit. They got nice outings from Kyle Gibson, from Tyler Wells, even though his outing technically came out of the bullpen, from Grayson Rodriguez. Dean Kramer, we need to see more. Yeah. 2 starts to this point. He's been hurt by the long ball.
I thought Dean Kramer yesterday looked okay. I wasn't really, and again, I was sitting up in section 356. I didn't have a great view. I was seeing him from the side, so there's only so much you can tell. I also think the umpire squeezed him a bit.
Yeah.
But nothing really looked great to me from Dean Kramer yesterday. He got through a lot of hard hit balls, some decent defense. Jorge Mateo played another really good shortstop yesterday, I thought. In the outfield, Santander played a nice right field as well. He caught some balls that probably should have gotten down. But I don't think anything looked that great to me. There's something not quite right for Dean Kramer right now.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm not a pitching expert, but
I'm not either by any means.
I think what they were saying during his first start was that he hasn't been playing off his fastball enough. That his fastball touches 95, 96, and he needs to be playing off of it more. He keeps throwing too many off-speed pitches. He falls in love with that cutter, which is what's getting hit the hardest. I don't know. He'll figure it out. If he doesn't, the Orioles have other options. Yep. It's 2 starts into the season. He came up and he was really great in June last year, and he had a really rough July. But then he was great in August and September. So
hard to know what to make of him.
Yeah, we'll see if he can bounce back. I think he can. But again, if he doesn't, the Orioles have options for that. So Ramon Ruiz, it was nice to see him play a really good game yesterday. He had a couple of hits. He drove in a run. The Orioles had 5 different guys driving runs yesterday, which is really good to see. And he made a great play in the 8th inning. Brian Baker comes in after Perez allowed the first 3 runners to reach there in the 8th inning. And he immediately gets a ground ball to third base with runners on first and second. And Arias, the ball was smoked. It was smoked down the third base line. Arias backhands it, steps on the bag at third, fires across the first for the double play. They end up getting out of the inning a batter later. The defense was really good there for Arias. He had 2 hits yesterday. I don't know that I can fault Brandon Hyde at this point for playing Arias at third base over Henderson.
No, you can't.
Because Henderson, he's made a couple of errors, and he's had a couple of other ones that have gone for infield hits that would have been outs if he made an accurate throw. Yeah. Got a strong arm, not an accurate arm to this point. Arias seems to be a more sure-handed defender at third base. Do you think we're going to see more of him at third and Henderson DHing?
I mean, I think that'd be the smart play. I do think he is. That was the one question, I think, with Gunnar Henderson coming up, is can he be a good third baseman? Can he be a good shortstop? There was questions about where he'd play. To me, Gunnar Henderson is fine at both of them. I wouldn't say he's a plus defender. I wouldn't really say he's pretty average to me from what I've seen so far. The arm is good. I just don't necessarily think the glove is as good. But Ramon Arias, Gold Glove winner last year, he doesn't miss much. There's not many plays that Ramon Arias can't make at the hot corner. That's important to have. So, yeah, I think you'll see a majority of Ramon Arias at third base.
A majority is a bold statement.
I think they're going to DH Gunnar a lot.
Early on. They might. You got to go with who's going to help you win ball games defensively. But every scout seems to think that he's going to be a plus. That he's going to be a plus defender at third base,
and he could end up being that. But he hasn't. Keep in mind, he played a lot of shortstop in the minors as well. So it hasn't been like he's had hundreds and hundreds of games at third base yet. So let's wait until he gets there, and then maybe we'll make a more fair judgment.
Well, and I'll tell you that Jorge Mateo isn't making this easy for the Orioles, because Mateo is off to a tremendous start. He had 2 more hits yesterday. He is, through 7 games this year, Mateo is batting .350 with a .1085 OPS. He's walked 3 times. His slash line is .350, .435, .650.
Mateo's been the best Oriole.
He's been absolute, and he leads the American League with 5 stolen bases.
He has been the best player on the team.
Yeah, and he's consistently batting 8th or 9th in this batting order. Do I think he's going to hit 280 this year? Absolutely not.
No.
I think he's going to come back down to earth. But he's doing exactly what the Orioles need to see from him. They needed to see him get off to a hot offensive start, and there's pressure behind him. It's the same thing with Ryan Mountcastle. You look down at the minors right now at AAA, and O'Hearn's hitting, Lewin Diaz is hitting, Lester's hitting. They're all smoking the ball.
Josh Lester had like 3 home runs in a game.
He had a 3-homer game in Game 2 of the season. He had 4 home runs the first 2 games. O'Hearn had a 2-homer game, I think, the other day. There's left-handed power bats at first base that pushed Ryan Mountcastle to spring. He had a monster spring, and he's gotten off to a nice start.
Yeah, not bad.
For the Orioles right now. Mateo had the same pressure. Westberg had a good spring. Connor Norby had a decent spring. Joey Ortiz is a really good player. He's got these, and Gunnar Henderson's right over there at third base. They all can play shortstop, except for Norby. Norby's a second baseman. He's got a lot of pressure, and right now, he's taking the pressure, and he's handling it with great aplomb. He's out there making the plays. He's swinging the bat.
Even walking a little bit.
He's walking a little bit. He's off to a start that you really love to see. And again, another good problem to have if Jorge Mateo is that kind of player.
Well, there literally hasn't been a weakness in his game.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen one yet.
Yeah, his at-bats look better. He's laying off pitches that we've seen him swing and miss at a lot in the last year and a half. So really nice to see Mateo off to a really great start here. We're going to get Stan the Fan on the line here in just a matter of moments. I want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by PressBox. PressBox is Glenn Clark Radio, which is the definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or you can listen at PressBoxOnline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with Grayson Rodriguez, his father Gilbert, after his son's emotional debut, former Ravens tight end Nick Boyle, and NFL Network and John Boy host Chris Rose. You can find those interviews and more right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. Joining us now, he is back for his weekly segment. He is Stan the Fan. Charles, Stan, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Zach, and you, young man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, I like being called a young man because I was at the Jimmy's Tailgate yesterday, and I did not feel all that young amongst all those 21 and 22-year-olds. So, Stan, were you at the game yesterday?
Yes, I was.
And your take on the Orioles get that win 7-6. Kramer, 4 earned runs in 5 innings. He allowed another big home run. Bullpen a little shaky again. But the Orioles have managed to pull out that victory, get to 4-3 on the season. What have you seen to this point?
Mostly positives. I would have liked to see Kramer take back that one pitch to Cordero.
Yeah.
I turned to my cousin and I said, "This guy's dangerous today." And sure enough, the next pitch he hits a 3-run homer. My biggest observation or takeaway though is that the bullpen is very shaky without Tate and Givens, and it's kind of amazing that I give Mike Elias a lot of credit for not just resting on what the bullpen did last year. I thought it was a very smart move to bring Givens in, because somebody was going to be less effective than they were last year. And to me, Givens was a big step up over Joey Crable and even Baker, to my way of thinking. And unfortunately, Tate and Givens haven't been able to go to the post, and it's showing a little bit. I think it's the weakest link on the club right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do like bringing in Danny Coulomb. I think that he, when he's healthy, he's a legitimate left-handed reliever. I think he's done a nice job. I think that CNL Perez has pitched fine to this point in the year. But yesterday he threw 5 pitches to get 3 outs there in the 7th inning, and they brought him back out for the 8th. And I said to myself, I don't know that you give him 2 ups. But he only threw 5 pitches, so I was like, you know what? He only threw 5 pitches. It makes sense. And he immediately allows 3 consecutive base hits and a run before they end up taking him out in favor of Brian Baker. Do you think that that's one of those things, Stan, where it was because he had the 2 ups, or he just was missing his spots yesterday?
I think sometimes you just got to give the other team credit. At Cabrera, looks like he's going to be a terrific player to me.
Yeah.
For the Yankees, I like his game a lot. I couldn't get into too deep a dive into what the 5-pitch thing. To me, I would have kept him out there. I would have tried to milk him a little bit more, But luckily, Brian Baker was able to come in and and get the job done in an emphatic way. That was quite a strikeout he had yesterday.
Stan, what do you make of the Aaron Boone comments after the game where he was asked basically if the Orioles are contenders and when they are going to be contenders? And his reply was, as far as I'm concerned, they're a tough team to beat and they're contenders now. You know you've got to play well to beat them. They're a formidable opponent. What do you make of that?
I think it's a sign of respect. There's really only one way a guy can answer that at this point in the season. If you show disrespect, it's up on the it's up on the clubhouse wall that he disrespected us. But I think this is a very, very tough division. The games that we play in this division, they're going to be a lot of close ball games. I mean, look at the 3 against Boston. It was unfortunate we let that one squeak away, but we were right in all 3 games. They were really nail biters. And this first one with the Yankees was a nail biter. I think that's the way these games will most likely be all season long. Yeah. I think the Orioles have stepped into where they can be taken seriously. I don't know if we have quite the depth of talent to hang with the Yankees in Toronto all year, and Tampa. I'm disrespecting Tampa a little bit, but I think we're right there with them.
Yeah, look, the Orioles are they. You can make an argument that they should be 5-2 or 6-1, but we do this with the Ravens too. Oh, the Ravens should be 8-1 when they're 5-4 or whatever.
Right, 5-3 or
yeah. We do this all the time.
You kind of are what you are.
Yeah,
you can on the side you can say, well, we really should be. We are where we are right now.
Yeah, but look, they went into Texas. They took 2 or 3 from a much improved Rangers ball club that scored 29 runs their first 3 games and held them to 7 runs in the series. Jorge Mateo looks like a difference maker. Zach was just saying right before you came on the show, Stan, that Mateo looks like the best player on the team right now. I don't know that I would go that far, but he's walking, he's hitting the ball solidly, he's playing great defense, he's leading the American League in stolen bases. He looks like a different player. Do you see something different from his approach? Do you see the way that he's swinging the bat as an improved approach at the plate?
I don't really see it as different. I thought last season we had 2 Jorge Mateos. We had the one from, say, April 1st to about June 15th. Then we had the one for about June 15th to August 5th or something like that. You could go back on Baseball Reference and look at the game logs and see what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then he fell back in the last 6 weeks of the season to being that other guy, the guy we didn't want offensively. And if you look at when the club was playing its best baseball, it's when he was playing really top-notch baseball, offensively, that he was an entity on the team. So if they can get more of an entity out of him, more time this year, they're going to be tougher. Look, his on-base percentage last year, I think, was .269. We were talking about it on the Glenn Clark show yesterday, Glenn Clark radio show. And we're not talking about Mateo becoming a .330 or a .320 on-base guy. If he could get to .305, 300, think about all that many more times that he's on base creating havoc. And I will tell you that watching him without the shifts, his defense is even, it's more brilliant to watch, how much athleticism he brings to the position.
I agree. He made a play the other day against Texas where it was a slow grounder up the middle. He fielded it, and it looked like the ball hit his glove and got into his throwing hand at the exact same time. It was so smooth and so fast to get a speedy runner out of first base. His defense has been really good last year and to this point in the season so far. Gunnar Henderson, on the other hand, the defense has been a little shaky over there at third base. The bat is maybe starting to wake up. Sandy has 2 multi-hit games in his last 3 games played, but he also has 8 strikeouts in those 3 games. He got 12 strikeouts in 6 games. He started out with 6 walks in the first 2 or 3 games of the season, and he hasn't walked since. What are you seeing from Gunnar Henderson offensively and defensively? Right now, it looks like the smarter play is to play Ramon Arias at third base.
Yeah, I would. I don't want to bury him as a designated hitter
Sure.
at his age, and I think he's a overall plus defender. His arm over there, I'm not as confident in his throws over to first base as I am Urias. But what I like is the 6 walks are impressive. I'm not going to worry too much about his strikeouts as long as he's walking. So I'm seeing some good at-bats out of him. I think he's pressing a little bit. There's a lot expected of him. And, not that he was up all year last year, but this is what the sophomore jinx is all about, is building up expectations in your first season and then not quite being able to get to them. Again, you seem like a disappointment. You start pressing. You start trying to be what you were the year before, when all players are evolving constantly. So I think it's a little bit of a mental situation. Remember, he's entering into the deep water at a very young age. I'm not really worried about him, but I would have liked to seen him got off a little hotter, batting average wise. But I love the on-base percentage is there where you want him to be. That's why he's going to be an impact player.
Yeah,
because he gets on base.
Well, Stan, you mentioned on-base percentage. The Orioles are second in the American League with a .350 team on-base percentage, and also second with a .469 team slugging percentage. The approach this year looks better up and down the lineup. They all seem to be taking better at bats. You don't really see anybody that you're like, oh man, that was a really terrible at bat. At least not to this point. Do you think that this has been a team-wide thing that they really focus on because they were so bad at it last year?
Not quite that sophisticated in understanding what they're doing different. I think that I think the club sent a subtle message to Ryan Mountcastle, a not so subtle message to him, by all the traffic of left-handed hitting first basemen that they had coming through camp, and one of which I would have liked to have held on to. I would have liked to have held on to Cordero over McKenna. I think he was more of a plus bat, not a plus defender, despite McKenna's problem. But I think Hayes and Mountcastle were kind of due to start putting it together. I mean, they're not kids anymore, and they've got to become part of the solution here, not part of the problem. And I think a little bit, Hayes' injuries have always set him back. He looks much more confident at the plate than at any time I've seen him. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that those two guys can really do a nice job this year. I think that'll go a long way in deciding whether or not the Orioles are contenders this year.
Yeah, and they're off to good starts. Everybody seems to be pulling their weight. Cedric Mullins' average dropped to 207, but he leads the team in RBIs. So they're all swinging it well and doing their part to contribute to a nice 4-3 start on the season. Stan, Grayson Rodriguez gets called into action earlier than we expected after he was sent back down to AAA coming into the season. Kyle Bradish takes that 104-mile-an-hour line drive off his right foot, has the right foot, the contusion there. He's on the IL, but they expect him to be back as soon as he's ready to come back, as soon as those 15 days are up. Grayson Rodriguez steps in, 30 pitches, 2 runs allowed, walks the leadoff hitter in his first inning. And then over the next 4 innings, 50 pitches, no walks, no runs. Did you notice any particular adjustments? One thing I saw that I commented in the first inning, it looked like he was yanking his pitches, and then he really settled down after that. Do you think that it was more so nerves than anything else in that first inning?
That's what I think. Yeah, I think he was just had the butterflies going, and you're not human if you don't have them, and you got to turn them into a positive. And I think he was able to do that from the second inning through the fifth inning. It was a very positive outing by him. Because now he's sort of broken through a barrier of getting through a fourth inning and even a fifth. So now he's set a standard for what he can do, and hopefully he can. He doesn't have to be the Cy Young Award winner this year. He just has to give his team a chance to win games and let them take care of the rest of it. And I think, I'm optimistic now that he's crossed a barrier.
Do you think, Stan, that he's here to stay as long as he continues to pitch well, or do you think that he's the first one sent back down as soon as Bradish is ready to go again?
I think if he's pitching well, they're going to figure a way to make him stay, and that could be, using Bradish when he comes back. Bradish is going to have to be built back up again. Right?
Right.
I saw Kyle yesterday, and I asked him after the game how he's doing, and he said he's coming along. He's not in a lot of pain now, so he'll get the rest he needed. But along with that comes the need to build back up, and there are going to be ways to have Grayson Rodriguez on this pitching staff. And again, I point out that instead of trying to recreate the wheel, as great as Tyler Wells was in that 5-inning outing, with Givens and Tate not here right now and the need being there late in ball games, there's plenty of ways to keep If Grayson Rodriguez is pitching well, you don't have to worry about what he's going to do the day he's pitching. You got to worry about how you're going to get through other games. And to me, Wells could be again a pivotal person.
Well, and Stan, I'm
now,
glad
I'm not rooting for Wells to do poorly. What's he pitching tomorrow? Is he starting tomorrow?
I think so. I know Irvin's going today, and it would make sense that it would be Wells to start tomorrow.
I think it's Wells tomorrow. It's not like I'm sitting there going, God, I hope he pitches 3 1/3 and gives up 3 runs to prove my point that he's better. I just think right now, the time of the game that you need somebody is Wells, and locking him in to being a starting pitcher seems like you're taking away a weapon later in ball games.
Especially
don't get me started. I think the problems in the bullpen, the absence of Givens and Tate, would not be as severe right now if they would have done what they said they were doing last July, which was changing D.L. Hall to relief pitcher. So, anyway,
there's
that's
a couple
an argument for another day.
It certainly is, and there are, and I'm glad you brought up Tyler Wells because he was going to be the next point that I made. Look, he came in, and when you look at what the Orioles starters did in that Texas series, if you count Tyler Wells' outing as coming from a starter, even though he came in the 3rd inning, they were phenomenal. Right. Grayson, Kyle Gibson, and Tyler Wells just shut down the Texas Rangers offense in that series. Wells, 5 innings, no hits, no walks, no runs. You can't get any better than that. So when it's time for Bradish to come back, though, I think that he is a weapon at the back end of your bullpen. Even with how well he pitched the other day, that bullpen is struggling right now, and they need somebody that they know can come in and shut down the opposition. I don't want to punish him for doing a great job, but he has the experience doing it, Stan. To me, it makes too much sense not to do at this point. I don't know, man. It's hard because he pitched so well.
I've been right about certain players in this situation. I was 100% right 20-some years ago when I argued about Arthur Rhodes, that he was a relief pitcher, not a failed starter. And he had a great career for 20 years as a relief pitcher, a significant relief pitcher. He was never really a quote-unquote closer, but, man, he could get you to that 9th inning, and I see a lot of that in Wells. Now, I argued 5 years ago that Kevin Gausman I looked at his scattered minor league work, and I thought, this guy's a weapon late in games. I proved to be wrong on that. I tend to look at somebody that's not doing a job as a starter, and I try and look for a positive outcome for that person. So I'm right sometimes, I'm wrong sometimes. I know I'm right on D.L. Hall. He will never be a meaningful starting pitcher in the major leagues. Wells, my reason for wanting him as a weapon later in games is I think the more innings he pitches as a starter, the more there's a chance of a physical breakdown.
Yeah.
And I feel actually a lot that's what's kept D.L. Hall from developing is he's never able to go to the post, 28 times a year and give you 6 innings and build up the innings. And I don't know why they don't see it's that they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. To me, I see him, and I think I see right through what he is. That's not a negative that I see him as a bullpen arm. I see him as a real weapon late in games.
Yeah, look, if it can help the ball club, if these guys that are starters right now can help the team where they're the weakest, which is in the bullpen, okay, then let them do it. You and I have a very differing opinion on DL Hall. He didn't do himself any favors in his first start down in AAA, but then again, neither did Grayson. He came up and looked really good against Texas. Right. You know what I mean? The Orioles are intent on keeping both of them as starters right now, it seems. They may have a decision to make down the line here because you can only have so many starters in your rotation, and you need help in that bullpen. So, it's going to come to a point where they have to make that decision, and I think that they'll end up making the right one, hopefully, for the ball club. Stan, we got to get going here. What do you have coming up this week?
To Monday night, Ross and I will have author Lee Lowenfish, who just happened to be a professor of mine at UMBC back in the early 70s in American Studies. He's written many, many books on baseball. He's got a book now on scouting called Endangered Species. I forgot the rest of the title, but it's basically about how scouting has changed and how it's moved toward, you very few teams have those older, wiser scouts about the way they looked at the game. Now it's a younger, more analytical approach to scouting. It's an interesting read. It's on Nebraska Press. Lee has written about 5 or 6 books on baseball over the years, including The Imperfect Diamond, The Art of Pitching with Tom Seaver, and what's it called? The Ferocious Gentleman on Branch Rickey. And this is another really quality book that he's written.
All right, excellent. So we will certainly look forward to that, Stan. Have a great week.
6 o'clock on Monday.
Do you have anything coming up on Thursday?
We'll either have the president of Stevenson University, Elliot Hirschman, or athletic director Brett Adams talking about the opening of the east side of their campus, which has a lot of interesting stuff with athletics.
All right, we'll be looking for that this coming week, Stan. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next Saturday, all right?
All right, talk to you next Saturday.
All right, see you
guys.
Bye. Now, with Stan the Fan Charles, who continues to have 2 great shows for you every week. Every Monday night, Stan and former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley visit with a different guest from the world of baseball. And every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. It was a strange week for Stan this past week, but if you missed either of the shows he did with Press Box's Luke Jackson, one discussing his initial MLB power rankings and the other discussing the Orioles start, you can find them under the videos tab at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or at PressBoxOnline.com/video. Stan and Ross are back this Monday for another great show, and Stan and Gary are back on Thursday with another great show, so tune in for those. Stan and I very strongly disagree.
You do.
About DL Hall.
You do.
And we've had a number of back and forth moments about that on this show, so I didn't want to do that again. Look, if ultimately Stan's right and DL has to go to the bullpen, I can, make my peace with that if it's what's best for the ball club. I don't know that that's the case yet. And look, he didn't pitch very well in his debut start down there.
And not many innings either.
Yeah, but neither did Grayson.
No, that's true.
In his first outing, he came up and he looked dominant from the second inning on against Texas. So DL Hall, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and to go out there to improve it. Because anytime he's always been told he's too small or he's too this or he's too that, and he keeps proving people wrong. I'm willing to give him, like I said, the benefit of the doubt and go out there and prove it. But if he gets through May and he's got a 4.5 ERA out of that rotation and he's still walking 5 guys per 9, that's when it's like, all right, man, as much as I hate it, as much as I believe in his talent, the rating's kind of on the wall. The thing about Tyler Wells, he hasn't done anything to deserve being kicked out of the rotation.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with Stan there that Wells is a a long-time reliever right now. He's basically saying that's what they should do with Wells. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I think the Orioles have really, if you look at it and you include John Means, who's obviously not healthy right now, they have 7 legitimate, really good starting pitching options right now. 7 legitimate guys, if you include John Means, who will be back at some point this season, we hope. So, to me, Tyler Wells is one of those guys, until he proves that he's not.
Well, the thing about Tyler Wells, he's going to be 29 in August.
Mm-hmm.
He's not old.
No.
But he's 29 years old.
Yeah.
And
probably going to hit his peak in his career some point soon.
And he's been hurt a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Stan's point is that it's not that he's a failed starter, it's that you keep him healthy by keeping him in the bullpen and having him be an impact arm for you at the back end of your bullpen, which they sorely need.
They do.
Right now. Like, it's legitimately Coulomb, Perez, and Bautista are the only ones pitching worth their salt right now coming out of that bullpen. Everybody else, you're kind of like clutching your pearls a little bit when they come into the ball game. So to me, like,
they've never needed Dylan Tate so bad. They need Dylan Tate. Michael Givens is a great signing because he brings that veteran experience. He brings a calm to that bullpen that they don't really have.
Yeah, but he's got to be out there. And
they
don't
exactly,
have that yet.
Exactly.
I'm interested to know how he's coming along. I do want to ask Nathan Ruiz if there's any updates about Michael Givens. What I really hate is this new rule that apparently they can't call up somebody that they sent down to the minors to start the year until April 15th.
I didn't know that.
Because Nick Vespi could be helping this ball club right now.
Yeah.
And I would much rather see him in that bullpen than Keegan Aiken. At this point, I know Keegan Aiken can give you innings.
That's what I was going to say.
But I don't look at Keegan Aiken as a high-leverage reliever. I look at him as a guy.
Yeah.
Last year, league average for inherited runners allowed to score by a reliever, league average was 31%.
Mm.
Keegan Aiken was the worst on the team of qualified relievers. 37% of inherited runners scored. This year, 3 of 4 inherited runners have scored against Keegan Aiken. He's come in with a runner on first base and immediately given up an RBI double. Not
what you want.
And that's what we saw the second half. He was really, really good the first 2 months of the season last year. But from June on, he wasn't. He just wasn't good.
Yeah.
But his ERA stayed low because a lot of the runs a good bit of the runs he gave up were inherited runners.
Yeah.
You can't have that. Your starter needs to be able to trust the guys coming in after him. And if Dean Kramer goes out there and he allows the leadoff guy to get on base in the sixth inning, and then the reliever immediately comes in and allows that runner to score, that run should be charged to the reliever. You came in with a runner on first base in an inning and you let that runner score.
Yeah.
Like they had to go 270 feet to score, and you let that happen. That run should be on the reliever. Kyle Gibson allows the first 2 guys to reach base on opening day. Keegan Aiken comes in and he immediately allows both of those runners to score. Keegan Aiken's ERA is 0 at the end of that game, and Kyle Gibson's is 7.20 because Keegan Aiken couldn't come in and do his job.
Yeah.
But that falls on Gibson, even though they were both weakly hit base hits, and one of them should have been caught. Santander took a step back instead of coming in. To me, your relievers have to be better. You got to stop letting these inherited runners score. And if you can't trust, if you can't trust 5/8 of your bullpen at this point, you've got to do something else. And if Tyler Wells is that something else, you should be willing to take a look at it.
Maybe DL Hall is that something else.
Or maybe DL Hall. But DL Hall's in the minors right now. Tyler Wells is here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and they can't call him up till the 15th. So this is what you have to do right now. Look, I do like the fact that Tyler Wells is in the rotation right now. He's earned it. He pitched really well. And look, he volunteered to do that on Tuesday. He knew. On Monday. He knew that the Orioles needed somebody, that they were looking at, having their backs against the wall with a bullpen that frankly pitched far too much in the opening series. And he volunteered, he went out there and he did his job.
He did.
He was balls to the wall, and he was absolutely brilliant in that game. He earned the right to start on Sunday. He earned the right to be in this rotation. At some point, you got to figure out, and maybe they don't. Maybe the bullpen kind of settles in. Dylan Tate and Michael Givens come in, and they help things out. Maybe they bring up Nick Vespi, who has yet to allow a run since 2021 at the AAA level. Maybe that's something that they do, but right now, the fact that you can only trust 3 guys in your bullpen, that's not good.
It's concerning. I don't really think Vespi's going to make a huge difference. I mean, he's a little bit of deceptive arm slot. He's a little bit lower, and he just doesn't throw that hard. He's like 90 on the fastball on a good day, and then the slider's good. I mean, it's the breaking stuff is definitely where I think Nick Vespi makes his money, is I guess the right word for it. But he doesn't really throw very hard. He's not overpowering, but he'll finesse it by you, and that's, I guess, the attraction of a lefty with a weird arm slot. But he definitely could help. We could see. I mean, Nick Vespi hasn't really had a lot of major league chances so far, maybe 10 at most, I think, games he's appeared in. So
his ERA was inflated last year. Mm-hmm. Because they brought him in mop-up duty.
Tough situations.
In one game in particular, I can't remember what it was, but they were getting it handed to him, and they brought him in mop-up duty, and he allowed like 5 runs. But aside from that, I thought he was good at the major league level. For some reason, he was brought. Dylan Tate gives up like a leadoff double or something like that against Boston, and they bring in Vespi with the go-ahead run at the plate. They bring him in to face Eric Hosmer, who has reverse splits, hits lefties far better than righties, and he immediately hits a 420-foot triple to give Boston the lead. To me, that was just an awful situation to put Vespi in, because Hosmer feasts on pitchers like that.
Right.
So for me, he wasn't brought in the right situations. He's earned the opportunity to be at the big league level. Mm-hmm. Pitched to a 0 ERA in the minors last year. He's done it this year to this point. Who else are you going to bring up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I still think DL Hall. I'm more on Stan's side than I am on yours. I want to keep. I want to keep an open mind, and I want to make sure that he gets the chances he deserves, and I think that's important. But I do think in the long term, DL Hall is a reliever, and he hasn't proven to me yet that he is a efficient and a starter that can go more than 4 innings. Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
It's very.
The stuff is amazing.
It's
There's
very
no doubt.
frustrating to know how good he is, how talented his arm is, and watch him go out there and not have command.
Right.
It's really,
and then throw 4 innings.
And it's really, really difficult. He needs to figure it out, or it's going to be his fault that he's not a starter. Because literally, you weren't here, but when we had Keith Law on, he said, "I love DL Hall. I believe that he can be an elite starter in this league. DL Hall is the thing holding DL Hall back."
Yeah, it's probably true.
He says that he doesn't use his elite spin rate fastball to his advantage. He tries to nibble. Instead of just going after guys, he tries to get them to swing at his pitch, and it's not working out for him. I hope he can figure it out, because I really think the Orioles can have one of the best young rotations in baseball, maybe as early as the second half of this season, if Hall does figure it out. He's getting the opportunity. It's up to him. Before we get out of here for our first break, you have a sounding off segment that you want to do, Zach. Sounding off today brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines. You can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Well, good thing the Orioles pushed the wall back, because according to a new study, climate change, and I don't want to get political here, Paul. I'm not going to get political with this, but this is what the study said. It was all over the news. This is from Fox News specifically. Climate change is going to cause over 50 more home runs in Major League Baseball per year. And I love weird baseball news, and this is the epitome of weird baseball news. They did a study where basically they found out that the air getting warmer, the air getting more dense over the period of the entire baseball season is going to allow for a lot more power in Major League Baseball. And we see Major League Baseball every year, deadening the ball, making the ball more juiced. I don't know what they've done this year. I think we have yet to find out. But it's going to play a big factor, I think, in the coming years in what Major League Baseball does with park fences, what they do with baseballs, what they do with bats. I mean, there's a lot of things you can make, more juiced or more dead to affect ball flight, affect how far a ball goes. And they've been doing things in Major League Baseball stadiums for a while now, and I'm blanking on the word at the moment. I probably should have Googled the word, but
like the humidifier stuff?
Yes, it's
in
exactly
Colorado?
Exactly right. So they do these things where essentially they try to either deaden the air or deaden the ball or something along those lines. So this is going to play a big factor, and it's weird baseball news. We're probably only going to see that number increase as time goes on, but we're going to see more power, and I think MLB is going to have to kind of figure out a way to deal with this. So this was from a University of Illinois let's see, what exactly is his title? I'm trying to figure out. He's a physicist at the University of Illinois. And his name is Alan Nathan. And he said, when air heats up, molecules move faster and away from each other, making the air less dense. Baseballs launched off a bat go farther through thinner air because there's less resistance to slow the ball. Just a little bit farther can mean the difference between a home run and a flyout. That was the quote directly from Alan Nathan. So we're going to see a lot more power in Major League Baseball in the next few years. I thought it's a really interesting study. You can go read it from Fox News on what they posted online. But it's pretty fascinating. We'll see how this ends up happening. But good thing the Orioles fence got pushed back because you may see some more home runs in future years.
I don't think that they need to do anything about it. I don't think they need to do anything
Maybe
about
just let it play out, sure.
Because, look, you're trying to make games faster and you're trying to make games more exciting. You make the bases bigger. You claim it's for safety. You want more stolen bases. You know what I mean?
Which is already happening, by the way.
Home runs being up. Oh no! Like everybody, home runs are fun, man. People want to see home runs. That's why they had the commercial back in '98. Chicks dig the long ball.
Yeah, with Mark McGwire.
Yeah, and Tom Glavine and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux. They're like, chicks dig the long ball. Next thing you know, they're dropping bombs at the end of the commercial.
Yeah.
It's people want to see home runs. I don't care. It's not that I don't care about the segment. I don't think they have a problem.
It's probably not a problem, but I think it's just interesting news. I love hearing this kind of random baseball news. It's always fun. That's why I like putting it in sounding.
No, it's cool. And the funny thing is, my wife and I were talking about climate change last night. Right before we went to bed, we were talking about...
That's a weird thing to talk about before.
Well, because we went to the Orioles... We were supposed to have opening day on Thursday, and it was 85 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it was legitimately 30 degrees colder outside and awful out. And they pushed it back to that day. And so we were talking about climate change a little bit, and then I wake up this morning to your sounding off segment, and it's about climate change.
That's funny.
And I just thought I was like, what? That's
Major League Baseball will see the effects of it, as will a lot of different industries, because you have more extreme weather, and they're going to have to figure out ways to get around that. You'll see more rain, probably some more snow in March and things like that, because it does cause more extreme weather. And then, of course, you have the direct performance things like this, where you could see more home runs, maybe... I don't know how it could affect pitch shape, pitch speed. You just don't know. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen. Exit velocities could go up. I love this stuff. I think it's interesting.
I can tell.
I might be the only one.
You're getting fired. By the way,
I need to find some analytics on this.
I like that hat. You wear that hat well. It's nice. It's a nice looking hat.
It is a good hat. It is a good hat.
It's a good hat.
I got told by someone the other day. They said, you need a Bass Pro hat. And I said, I will never in this world wear a Bass Pro hat.
No, I got to wear the North
I'm sorry.
Face. I got to wear the North Face. I got to tell you, who wanted all these Orioles hats with mesh backs?
I actually like the mesh backs.
I don't.
Not on baseball hats, though. Not on baseball hats.
I don't need... the Orioles have some hats that I really like, and then the back is mesh, and I'm like, I want nothing to do with this hat.
Really? I actually... See, this one is. And
I can see that.
Like
That's what made me think of it.
Yeah, for baseball caps, I like traditional baseball caps.
I enjoy... So I got... a new Orioles hat the other day. This is a new hat, by the way.
Not you.
Yeah, no, not like I have 50 already. I got a new Orioles hat a couple of weeks ago it's the stretch flex fit.
Okay.
But it has an ornithologically correct bird on it.
Okay.
Which somebody asked me at the golf course the other day. They were like, which one do you like better? I'm like, I like them all. I was like, honestly, I know that I hate that I'm old enough now that the ornithologically correct bird is retro, because it was a bird I grew up seeing on the Orioles hats. I like them all. I mean,
it was there until 2012, so it's not that old.
But I like that material, and the only legitimate Orioles hat that they make with that material is the ornithologically correct bird.
Yeah.
I wish they made them all like that, and I like. These, the ones that I saw that I liked yesterday, they had that material on the front, but then the mesh on the back, and it ruined the hat. We got to get a break. We got Nathan Ruiz coming up next. That's next on the Bat Around.
Hartford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Hartford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
All right, welcome back in to the Batter. I'm rolling right along here on the show today. I want to remind you, these are the final days to pick up this print issue of Press Box. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we met lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. Just a matter of moments until we get Nathan Ruiz on the line here on the Bat Around today. Orioles coming off a 7-6 victory over the Yankees on opening day. Some good, some bad from Dean Kramer. He had 4 scoreless frames in his first 5 innings, but he gave up that big 3-run homer to Franchy Cordero in the 4th inning. And what's really been kind of hampering him all through the spring and to this point in the season through 2 starts is the cutter's just not doing its job, and it's getting hit a long way. He seems to be giving up a big home run every time he goes out there. But the Orioles managed to pull out the victory 7-6. Jorge Mateo swinging a hot bat right now. Ramon Ruiz kind of got off the schneid a little bit yesterday with a couple of base hits and a really great defensive play at third base to get the Orioles out of a jam there in the 8th inning. The nice backhanded play to start a double play. So again, the Orioles come away with a 7-6 victory, 4-3 on the season, and with that victory, they jumped the Yankees in the American League East standings. They are now a half game back of Toronto, who is 5-3. Tampa Bay, 7-0. Off to a hot start here. They've won 7 straight games to start the year, and every game that they've won has been by 4 runs or more. The last team to win 7 straight games by 4 runs or more at any point in the season was the 2001 Seattle Mariners, who did it in September of that season. The last team to start 7-0 to begin a year was your 2016 Baltimore Orioles, and if you remember, they also won their last 5 games to get back to 500 to end the year in 2015. So it was really a 12-game winning streak for the Orioles, and that's what propelled them into their last playoff run, which wasn't much of a run. It was a wild card game loss where Zach Britton was sitting in the bullpen. The 13th inning when Ubaldo Jimenez gave up that walk-off home run to Edwin, as Gary Thorne would say, Edwin Aaron Carnarcian. That's the one thing I miss about Gary is his pronunciation of some difficult names. He just flew by the seat of his pants. He said, "Screw it, I'm just going to say it how I say it."
If you've ever seen the Pujols clip, you know what Paul's talking about.
There was a game, and I still have the recording on my phone somewhere, where the Orioles got out of a jam, but they were down by like 2 runs. And it was the 8th inning. It was like the end of the 8th inning or whatever. And he's like, and he gets out of it. And the Orioles are still within. And he was trying to say striking distance and hitting distance.
Yeah.
And he said essing distance. I still have the clip on my phone. The Orioles are within essing distance. But he actually said the word.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did you just say? And that faux pas that he made. And Pujols is not retired. Wow. Gary he just didn't care.
I love that guy.
Yeah. The thing is, I used to not like Gary Thorne.
Really?
Because I remember him getting way too excited when the opposition got a big hit. Josh Donaldson hit a walk. I remember I was working for Masson, and I was behind one of the cameras. And it was in extra innings. They were out in Oakland. It was just back in 2014. And Josh Donaldson hit a walk-off 3-run homer. And I believe he hit it off Tommy Hunter. And I was like so upset. And Gary was like, Josh Donaldson deep to left field. And he did it. It's gone. I'm like, do you know who you call games for? And then he also did it against the Royals, where they got a big base hit in the first inning. It was like a bases clearing double or something like that. He got excited. And I'll never forget, Nick Markakis robbed A.J. Pierzynski, who was a D-bag.
Yeah.
He robbed him of a home run in Baltimore when he was playing for Boston. He goes, Pierzynski drives one deep into right field. Markakis is back. He leaps and, oh, no, he caught it. And I was like, he made a great play, and you said, you broadcast for the Orioles. Markakis makes a leaping grab at the fence, and you said, oh, no, he caught it.
To defend Gary, sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's hard to describe a play perfectly. I'll give it to him there, but that's definitely questionable. I mean, I think he has to be somewhat objective, and I think you see Kevin Brown do that to a point now as the Orioles lead broadcaster. But, I miss Gary Thorne a lot, but Kevin Brown has taken over and been excellent in these past
it's so
2.5, 3 years.
How polarizing somehow he's become.
Yeah.
You either love Kevin Brown or you hate Kevin
I don't
Brown.
know why people would not like Kevin Brown.
People don't. Some people don't. I love Kevin Brown.
I think Kevin Brown's excellent.
I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think he brings levity to the broadcast. Yep. Who was the guy who played Omar in The Wire?
That I don't know.
I can't remember.
I can't
remember the
but I have
actor's
no
name.
idea.
But when he died, and then Austin Hayes hit a 3-run homer, and he made the quote when Austin Hayes hit it. He made the quote from Omar. It's something about King. Oh my gosh, I can't remember what the hell the quote was, because, admittedly, I've only ever seen one season of The Wire. I hate to say it out loud. I've only seen one season of The Wire. If you're wondering where Nathan Ruiz is, we called him a couple of times. He told me 20 minutes before the segment he was good to go.
I can give a call back if you want.
We called him. You can try. I sent
him
a text.
One more? Okay.
I sent him a text message saying that we called a few times. For all we know, something happened and he had to go cover something, or maybe he's just indisposed at the moment. I have no idea. But we did try to get him. Zach's going to give him a call again. But I think that Kevin Brown does a great job. And we've had him on the show a number of times, and he's always great on here. I like Kevin Brown. I think he's a likable guy. I think he's got a good personality. Yeah, he does tend to be a little bit of a jinx for the team. But, I mean, if you believe in stuff like that, I guess it is funny how he'll say something and then the exact opposite happens right after he says it. But I think he does a great job. And to Gary Thorne's credit, I learned to really enjoy Gary Thorne because you could just tell he was having a great time. He didn't take himself too seriously, and I went from not liking him to really enjoying him as a broadcaster. And I really started to enjoy him right about the time they're like, all right, Gary, we're done with you, which was unfortunate. We do have Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun with us now. So, Nathan, it is Paul. It's Zach. Good morning. Thanks for taking some time with us on the Bat Around today.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We always like having you. We enjoy talking some baseball with you. Orioles off to a good start. They get the victory last night over the Yankees, 7-6 in the home opener. Bullpen, a little bit shaky again yesterday, Nathan. Do the Orioles have any plans in the woodworks to maybe add a little bit to this group? Because right now there's only about 3 guys that you can really trust to take the ball and get you out of a jam.
Yeah, I think, the most obvious place where they'll make additions in that regard is going to be getting guys off the IL. Obviously, you've got Michael Givens and Dylan Tate, who are both expected to be, pretty significant parts of this bullpen. Dylan Tate obviously was a key setup man for them last year, and they brought in Michael Givens to kind of add a veteran to that group as well. And so when those 2 guys are sidelined, it obviously limits Brandon Hyde's options. We saw Brian Baker pitch in a big spot. We've seen Logan Gillespie really, rise up the bullpen ranks pretty quickly. There is some, roster machinations issues with, the start of the season with limits on bringing up guys who are optioned at the end of spring training. So they're in a tough spot right now when you've got some guys IL'd, when you've got, some roster limitations. But this is a group that they believe in. They didn't make any really, beyond Michael Givens, any significant additions to it. Maybe you think, depending on how the rotation competition, shapes up as Kyle Bradish recovers from his foot injury and returns, that might change some things. But until any of that happens, this is the group they're going to have to ride with a little bit, and I think they believe in it stuff-wise and ability-wise, and it's just a matter of execution.
Well, and do we have any kind of updates? I know that at the beginning of spring training, it was Tate's going to be back by the end of April. Now it's looking like the middle or end of May. As spring training was coming to a close, they said Givens was going to go on the IL, but they expected him back by mid-April. Is that still the time frame, especially for Givens, or are there any updates about how he's coming along?
Yeah, Michael Givens actually, Brandon Hyde said yesterday that he'll have a side session today. So I'm sure when we speak with Brandon Hyde this afternoon, maybe we'll have a clear idea of what Michael Givens' situation is and what his timeline is. And obviously the fact that he's going to get off the mound and throw bodes well. Dylan Tate, I think, is kind of still a situation where he's going to be out for April into May, and then they'll figure it out from there.
And then you mentioned Kyle Bradish. The injury with him was prompted Tyler Wells to come out and throw 5 elite innings out of the bullpen, which then brought the need for bringing up Grayson Rodriguez, who was really good in his Major League debut on Wednesday. When Bradish comes back, does a starter go to the bullpen? Do the Orioles move to a 6-man rotation? Does Grayson get sent back down? I can't imagine them sending Grayson down if he's still pitching well when Bradish is ready to come back. What do the Orioles do when they get to that when they start to have to cross that bridge?
Yeah, I think, like you just said right there, when they have to cross that bridge, that's when they'll do that. I think all of the options you laid out are possibilities. We could see someone move to the bullpen. They've been kind of apprehensive about a 6-man rotation just because of the limits that places on their bullpen. And then obviously how Grayson Rodriguez pitches in the coming weeks will have a big determination in what's next for him. But I think the big decision point is just going to be what the situation is. Like, you never know. Someone else could get hurt opening a spot right away for Kyle Bradish. Someone could pitch poorly and kind of make an easy decision for them. I mean, obviously, ideally, all those guys pitch well, and they do have a tough decision on their hands and have to sort things out. But Brandon Hyde basically said yesterday that when Kyle Bradish comes off the IL, he'll be in the rotation, but there's no guarantees of what the situation is with those other 5 guys when that time comes.
Now, moving to the offensive side of things, the Orioles, they're second in the American League with a .350 on-base percentage. They're second in slugging percentage. They're first in steals. The offense has really taken off, and one of the guys at the forefront of that has been Adam Frazier, who seems to always be on base. And he didn't have a good spring, and there were a lot of people, myself included, who kind of scratched their heads about the signing of Adam Frazier, considering what the Orioles have at the big league level and what they have at the minor league level knocking on the door. But Adam Frazier just looks like a professional baseball player. He just looks like a scrappy player who puts the bat on the ball, plays good defense. How big has his addition been for the Orioles, and how much of a wrench has he thrown into the spokes of their plans for this young ball club moving forward?
Yeah, obviously this is kind of exactly what they were looking for out of him when they signed him. And I think that he's the type of hitter they've really lacked up and down the lineup over the last few years. Obviously, you really like what you've seen out of Austin Hayes and Ryan Mountcastle, the developments they've had. But, and, Anthony Santander is a guy who, took a lot of steps in this regard of swing decisions and plate discipline, and that wasn't something they've really had. Someone who's going to make contact, put the ball in play. They've had a lot of swing and miss organizationally at the major league level over the last several years throughout the rebuild. And so to have a guy like Adam Frazier who you can trust to put the bat on the ball, work good at bat, and to this point getting good results, that's good to see. Now, obviously, he's only on a 1-year deal. You look at the Norfolk infield, and it's probably the best infield in minor league baseball. You've got Jordan Westburg, you got Connor Norby, you've got Joey Ortiz. If something were to happen to Adam Frazier, another one of these guys, you're going to have a good option to call on. Taron Vavra on the bench as well is another guy to like there. But what Adam Frazier's done so far is impressive, and that's what they're looking to see. He deepens their lineup if he hits like this. He's not going to be a guy who I think you're going to see near the top a whole lot. Obviously, different lineups, different matchups could prompt that, but for the most part, he's going to be a guy who's going to be probably in that bottom half of the lineup, and if he's doing what he's doing from there, it really strengthens their lineup overall.
You briefly just mentioned Taron Vavra, and we mentioned all these guys like you said, Westberg, Norby, Ortiz, and then you have Frazier and Ruiz and Mateo and Henderson at the big league level. Vavra gets lost in the shuffle, but this is a guy who takes professional at bats. He gets on base at a pretty high clip. He had a monstrous spring for them. He even showed more power than we're accustomed to seeing from him. I get that he's a utility player, but he can't seem to get off the bench. Are you surprised that with his on-base capabilities and the at-bats that he takes, that he hasn't gotten more playing time early on?
Well, I think it just speaks to, when you look at the job Adam Frazier's doing, when you look at what Jorge Mateo has done defensively and on the base paths, when you look at what Ramon Urias has done on both sides of the ball, when you've got Gunnar Henderson, there are some questions of where you fit him in. You've obviously he's got the ability to play a lot of different spots that we've seen Brandon Hyde use him at different spots, both throughout camp and early on in the regular season. So he's going to get his opportunities. Guys are going to get days off. They put him on this team because they intend to use him. They want, it's unfortunate for him that he's not getting regular playing time, but I think it kind of speaks to the organizational situation that they are prioritizing the role, no matter how small it may be, he can have on the major league team over giving him opportunities at AAA. And obviously finding playing time at AAA might be difficult too, just given the situation we talked about there with the infield in Norfolk. But all that said, I think that he's a guy who they really value, who brings some versatility, who brings, like you mentioned, a great approach, great plate discipline, great contact ability, and as we saw in spring, a little more pop. So he's a guy who's really valuable and will go a long way for them.
Kyle Stowers, he is glued to the bench. One start, he had one at-bat in the Boston series. The reverse splits against left-handed pitching in the minors were off the charts, yet he will not face a left-handed pitcher in the majors. You look at what Ryan McKenna is, with the exception of a hot stretch in the middle of the season last year, he's not a great hitter against left-handed pitching either for his career, and he made that big error. What does Kyle Stowers have to do to get more playing time? I feel like he hasn't even gotten the opportunity to earn that more playing time.
Yeah, the left-on-left splits and the lack of usage against them in the majors is definitely a little confounding. It was a conversation topic last year while he was up. Just what's keeping him out is especially against against left-handers, the Orioles were struggling a lot. So it's something to watch, something to monitor going forward. Obviously, the numbers are what they are, but the Orioles must see something, have some intel on. They have more information than we do. So if there's something there that they're seeing with Kyle Stowers and left-on-left matchups that makes them hesitant, then that's a different story. That said, he's kind of like in that Taron Vavra camp where there are guys who are in front of him right now in the Major League depth chart, but the team decides that he has value and as being part of this Major League team, even if it means not getting consistent playing time. That could change over the course of the season. All it takes is, one injury or one other move and an opportunity opens up. And so I think Kyle Stowers, we're going to continue to see him and Taron Vavra kind of in that same pool of when the opportunity presents itself, they'll be on the field, but otherwise they'll wait for their opportunity, and hopefully for them, they take advantage of it.
Gunnar Henderson, to this point, we've talked to a number of people on this show, and I'm sure you have as well, that think that Gunnar Henderson could be an elite defender at third base. That elite defense hasn't showed up to this point in the season. He had an error saved by a ball that bounced off his glove and went straight to Jorge Mateo. There were a couple of infield singles that could have been errors because he made a throw that if it had been accurate, the guy would have been out. What have you seen from him defensively, and do you think we could see him maybe DHing a little bit more with how good Arias has been at the hot corner?
Yeah, just to start with that second part, I think that Brandon Hyde really trusts what Ramon Urias does defensively. We saw it yesterday in the eighth inning, starting a double play on a 105-mile-per-hour grounder, and Gold Glove winner, going to get recognized today for that award, and obviously has a ton of value for them. Can play second as well, and Gunnar will play third. So I think they just really value. We've seen this with Brandon Hyde throughout his tenure. He really values the experienced guy, the guy who's positioned himself well, and Ramon Urias has shown what he can do at third base. Didn't get a ton of innings over there last year, relatively speaking, to some of these other Gold Glove candidates, and still impressed enough with the advanced metrics to win the award. So he's a guy who they really like. And in terms of Gunnar Henderson, he's a guy who's bounced back between short and third throughout his career. Obviously got some odd time on the right side of the infield at the end of his Norfolk tenure last year. But I think he's a guy who the Orioles believe in a lot. He's going to continue to get opportunities. When Jorge Mateo needs a day off, he'll be the shortstop. whatever early hiccups there have been on either side of the ball, they believe in his ability to get over them. He's shown it out throughout his career that if he slumps, if he struggles, he has the ability to grow from it and move past it. And I think we'll continue to see that in his major league career.
And then finally, Dean Kramer. He's had some hiccups himself. He, the good yesterday, he threw 3 scoreless innings to start the game. He struck out Aaron Judge a couple of times. But then he gives up that big 3-run homer to Franchy Cordero there in the 4th inning. He tends to, at least from spring training into the early part of this season, seems to be giving up home runs on that cutter. And he left that one cutter hanging right over the middle of the plate for Cordero to just hit like he was hitting it off a tee yesterday. Like I said, little good, little bad. What are we seeing from Dean Kramer? I think he can bounce back, but is there concern, even though, again, there's 7 games into the season, but is there any kind of concern there regarding Kramer?
Yeah, I think, they would like better results. He would like better results. Like you mentioned, it's so extremely early in the season. There were times back in 21 when you look at his struggles there where, Brandon Hyde felt he got a little cutter reliant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we're quite seeing that. He obviously has the sweeper in his mix now. He's using that pitch. Saw a lot of sinkers early on from him yesterday. So he's got really quite the repertoire now. And I think, utilizing that in full is going to be what gives him the most success. He'll continue to be in the rotation for the time being. Obviously if he struggles, Kyle Bradish comes back. I don't know that the Orioles definitively would do that, but when Kyle Bradish comes back, they're going to have to evaluate some things. So, all these guys I think are kind of going to continue to be in a rotation competition, so to speak. But Dean Kramer was their number 2 starter to open the season for a reason. They really believe in him and what he can do, and they believe in his ability to bounce back.
And before we let you go, what can we plug for you? What do you got coming up as you're writing for the Baltimore Sun covering the Orioles this season?
Yeah, I had a fun story out today on the Orioles' new doubles celebration. I think people have seen, if they've been watching the games on mass, and some players do the sprinkler when they get to second base. But the more interesting part is really what happens in the dugout. I'll just direct them to baltimoresun.com/sports/Orioles to check out that story to get the inside details on that. And that's where you can find all of my and Jacob Meyer's work.
All right, excellent. By the way, has the home run change just gone away? I haven't seen it yet this year.
Yeah, I don't think they brought that back. I think it's, a new team, a new energy. They're trying to find things. That kind of happened just organically last season. I think they're probably looking for something to that effect as well. Just something fun, something new, something that represents the 2023 team.
Well, that seems to make sense. Nathan, always great talking with you. Thanks for taking some time for us here on a Saturday. Enjoy the rest of the season. We'll talk to you down the line, all right?
Yeah, sounds great. Really appreciate it, man.
All right, see you. That was Nathan Ruiz from the Baltimore Sun joining us here on the Bat Around today. Always enjoy talking with Nathan because he covers the team. He's got
plugged in.
He's plugged in. What I also like about Nathan is that a lot of times you'll see people kind of toe the company line when it comes to the Orioles. He does not do that.
No.
He says how he feels, and I think that that's refreshing. That's why I like having him on the show, because if he has an opinion on something, he's going to give it. And I like that, when I asked him about Kyle Stowers, he said, it's confounding. He has those reverse splits in the minors, and yet he's not getting playing time. And yes, the Orioles know more than we do, but Stowers isn't even getting an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't really. And I don't, Austin Hayes is definitely confounding. We've talked about him a lot on the show, but he hasn't really gotten off. He had that one 5-hit game, and then he hasn't really done a whole lot outside of that. So, maybe he starts to get more playing time as Austin Hayes starts to, lose his spot in the everyday starting lineup. That could definitely be possible.
Well, and the thing with Hayes, he had that 5-hit game. He only has 2 hits otherwise.
That's what I'm saying.
The rest of the season. His
right.
average is a 3.04.
Right, but it's because of that 5-hit game.
Yeah, I will agree with Stan, though. He does look more confident to me at the plate
I think
now.
so.
He looks more confident, but and he had a big spring. I'm not too worried about Austin Hayes right now. Ask me when these struggles kind of bleed into
Look, if Austin Hayes can hit 250 with a 310 on base percentage,
well, that's what he did last year,
and 20 home runs, I'm okay with that.
It's
not bad.
I think he's so much better than that, though.
I think
he
he
has
is
the
too.
potential to be so much better than that, but he keeps getting freaking hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can follow Nathan Ruiz on Twitter at Nathan S. Ruiz. You want to be reading Nathan's stuff. You want to go read his stuff because he's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. What else is fantastic is PressBox Online offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get 5 second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. $10. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. When we come back in, the payoff pitch around the league and Orioles banter. That's next on the Bat Around.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows that the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely, thanks for having me on.
John Angelos.
Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
All right, rolling along here on the Bat Around today. We are back for our payoff pitch around the league segment. And now, without further ado, Francisco Lindor, Starling Marte, and Pete Alonso all homered, and Tyler McGill tossed 6 shutout innings as the Mets defeated the Marlins 9-3. Ian Happ and Cody Bellinger each drove in runs to back 6 shutout innings from Marcus Stroman in the Cubs' 2-0 win over Texas. Gunnar Henderson had 2 hits and an RBI, and Adley Rutschman reached base 3 times in the Orioles' 7-6 win over the Yankees. Cincinnati Reds at Philadelphia Phillies. Zach Wheeler pitched into the 6th inning, allowing 2 runs, while JT Realmuto connected for his first homer to send the Phillies to a 5-2 victory over the Reds in their home opener. Julio Rodriguez and J.P. Crawford each had 2 hits and 2 ribeyes to help Seattle take care of Cleveland 5-3. Jose Miranda had 3 hits and an RBI for a Twins team that stopped the Astros 3-2 in 10 innings. Brian Reynolds was one of 4 Pirates players with at least 3 hits and also drove in 6 as Pittsburgh improved to 5-2 with a 13-9 win over the White Sox. Salvador Perez smashed his first homer of the season as Kansas City took down the Giants 3-1. Tampa Bay became the first team since the 2001 Mariners to win 7 straight games by at least 4 runs as they beat Oakland 9-5 to improve to 7-0. Former Orioles Manny Machado and Nelson Cruz combined for 5 hits and 2 RBIs, while former Orioles prospect Josh Hader converted his second save of the season to lead the Padres past the Braves 5-4. My favorite player, Willie Adames, homered, and Brendan Woodruff tossed 6 shutout innings as the Brewers improved to 6-1 with a 4-0 win over St. Louis, dropping the Cardinals to 2-5. 7 Nationals recorded multi-hit games, including J.J. Abrams, who swatted 2 triples in the Nationals' 10-5 win over the Rockies. Mike Trout homered and drove in 2, but it was Bo Bichette who stole the show with 3 hits, including his second home run, and 3 RBIs as the Blue Jays stopped the Angels 4-3. And finally, Evan Longoria turned back the clock, going 3 for 3 with his second home run, driving in a run and leading the Diamondbacks to a 6-3 win over division rival, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Zach, what do we have on tap here around the league?
All right, 2:10 is our first game of the day. Luis Garcia takes on Joe Ryan, Astros and Twins. They're both off to pretty good starts to start this year. The Royals and the Giants, Brady Singer versus Sean Manaea, the lefty, 4:05 at Oracle Park. Rangers at Cubs, Martin Perez, who's had a great last year, having a great year this year so far, takes on the fellow lefty, Justin Steele, 4:05 at Wrigley. Reds and Phillies, Nick Lodolo, the lefty, takes on another lefty, Bailey Falter, 4:05 Citizens Bank Park. Tanner Houck, takes on Joey Wentz as the Red Sox battle the Tigers, 4:10 Comerica Park in Detroit. Athletics take on the Rays. Shintaro Fujinami takes on Jeffrey Springs, 4:10 at the Trop. Marlins, they'll start Trevor Rogers. Kodai Senga starts for the Mets, 4:10 in Queens at Citi Field. Mariners take on the Guardians, 6:10 at Progressive Field. Marco Gonzalez, the lefty, versus Cal Quantrill, the righty. 6:10 at Progressive Field. White Sox and Pirates, Mike Clevenger takes on Vince Velasquez, 6:35 in Pittsburgh. Yankees take on your Baltimore Orioles, 7:05 Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Johnny Brito takes on Cole Irvin, the lefties. He makes his second Orioles start. He's 0-1, so
he's 0-1.
Hoping he turns it around. Jordan Montgomery, the lefty, takes on another lefty, Eric Lauer, 7:10 at American Family Field as the Cardinals take on the Brewers. The Padres, they'll start Michael Wacha. Charlie Morton goes for the Braves, 7:20 at Truist Park.
Waka.
Dodgers, they'll start Noah Syndergaard, the vet, against Zach Davies, another former Oriole, 8:10 at Chase Field. Dodgers and D-backs. Nationals will start Trevor Williams. Austin Gomber goes for the Rockies, 8:10 at Coors Field. Final game of the night is at 9:07. Jose Barrios against Tyler Anderson in Anaheim as the Blue Jays play the Angels.
If Michael Wacha had signed with the Orioles,
well, he's 1-0 with a 6 ERA and 2 strikeouts.
If he had signed with the Orioles, they would have been doing a disservice to everybody if they didn't make a T-shirt with Fozzie from the Muppets that said Waka Waka.
That would have been nice. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Didn't they do that for like Shakira for a while? They made shirts that said that because her song says Waka Waka or something along those lines.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's something along those lines.
I have no idea.
You've never heard that song?
No.
I'm not a big Shakira fan, but I feel like everyone's heard that song.
Yeah. I Waka Waka.
Yeah, it's a Shakira song, right? It's
home tonight, Waka Waka.
No, it's not. I don't think it's that one, but I don't know.
A cool T-shirt that's coming out. It's going to be the Orioles promotional giveaway that I just saw on Tuesday night.
Waka Waka, this time for Africa, is her song. What? Shakira. You've never heard that?
I probably
That's
have.
unreal.
Anyway, the Orioles are the first 10,000 fans, 15 and over on Tuesday night against the Athletics. We'll get a Gas 'em Up, Welcome to the Show, Grayson Rodriguez T-shirt, which is pretty cool. Somebody was saying that we got to give a nickname to Grayson Rodriguez, and they said that it should be, I
thought there was already a nickname. I mean, it's Gray Rod. No?
He prefers G-Rod to Gray
I don't
Rod.
like that. Hate that.
Grayson Rodriguez it prefers G-Rod to Gray
Rod. I disagree with him.
Why don't we just call him the Rod? The Rod.
The Rod. That's flattering.
Well, the guy walks around like he's carrying a big one, so.
Wow. What?
I mean, he just shoves.
Most questionable comment in the history of the bat around. My God.
The guy just shoves. I don't know. Stan dropped the F-bomb on this show a couple of months ago. The guy shoves. Call him the Rod. Now I lost my train of thought. What a statement! You're right. I'm blushing hard, man. I can't believe I said that. But whatever, man. The guy he shoves. Call him the Rod.
I love this show.
But yeah, so he's got a cool Gas 'em Up T-shirt. Somebody, who's the guy? Who's the guy that? God, he's from like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or something.
One of those very different series.
Somebody was trying to come up with a damn nickname for him, and I feel like it begins with a B or a G. Gandalf. Maybe you wanted to call him Gandalf. Yeah, that's what it was.
That's like Lord of the Rings, I believe.
Yeah, he wanted to call him Gandalf because he's a wizard out there, and
that's awful.
And Utah Street Report ripped the dude like,
that's bad.
No, we're not calling him that. If you will be alone in calling him Gandalf. Why does he have to have a nickname?
I was gonna say they should happen organically.
Yeah, like I understand that like the big unit for the big Rod. That's what they should call him. The Big Rod.
Oh my
Come on. It writes itself. Randy Johnson, 6'10" on the mound, dominant, the big unit. Roger Clemens was the Rocket. Mike Mussina was the Moose. Adam Dunn was the Big Donkey. for the same reason that you would call Grayson Rodriguez the Rod. The Big Rod. That's what they should call him. The Big Rod. Gandalf. The Big Rod. Grayson Rodriguez.
Again, it should happen organically. You should come up with a nickname based on something like Felix Bautista wasn't the Mountain because we decided. It just became the Mountain.
It's because he's freaking enormous.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
it's
organic.
An ode to Game of Thrones. Now, I was thinking, well, why don't we just call him the Gas Man? But you can't do that because Kevin Gausman, they started calling him the Gas Man.
Did they?
So I think that the name should just be the Big Rod.
By the way, Kevin Gausman has pitched 12 innings and not given up a run yet. So
we gave him a run, but no earned runs.
Oh, no earned runs. You're correct. Yeah. He's pitched well.
Because he's Kevin Gausman. He's really freaking good.
Yeah.
There's a reason the Orioles took him like 4th overall. Yeah. He's really good. I guess the really great pitchers. What's Justin Verlander's nickname?
JV? I don't know.
He doesn't have one. What's Max Scherzer's nickname?
So Baseball Reference lists nicknames. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Let's look up for Justin Verlander and see what they list. And then I'll look it up for Grayson. I don't know if they're going to have one, but we'll see.
Guaranteed he doesn't have one. Guaranteed he doesn't have a nickname. You look up Verlander. I'm going to look up Max Scherzer.
It says nickname JV. That's what they have for Justin Verlander. But realistically, I don't think anyone calls him that.
I don't think there's no nickname for Max Scherzer.
Okay. Yeah.
Nickname
Mad Max. I've heard that one.
They do call him that.
Yeah, I've heard
Blue
that
Eye or Brown Eye. What a clever nickname. Mad Max. Okay. So if you're like an elite, dominant starting pitcher, you should have a nickname. I'm sticking with the Big Rod.
Grayson's
Rod.
middle name is Greer. We can just call him Greer.
Greer Rod?
Yeah, Greer Rod.
There's only 2 things that come out of Texas: steers and Greers. Steers and Greers.
What's a Greer?
I don't know. Rusty Greer. Rusty Greer was a good player for the Texas Rangers. Greer, I'm not going to give Greer. It's like rural or rural. You're too young to know that reference.
I am too young to know that reference.
It was David Spade calling into an infomercial on SNL. God, we have gone so off the rails in this segment here. I don't know. The nickname will come organically. If people want to start calling him the Gas Man, we call Gus Edwards Gus Bus. Even though I didn't like that because the bus was
Jerome
Bettis. I guess we can call him the Gas Man. I think the Big Rod would be hysterical, and it would be a great nickname.
In the context of history, the Gas Man sounds a little odd. I'm not a huge fan of that one.
The Gas Man?
I think let's just go with G-Rod or Gray Rod or whatever. Whatever he wants to be called.
We know that Ryan Mountcastle doesn't like to be called Mountie. So
so my dad at opening day yesterday saw they have the banners outside with nicknames on them. Like they have Felix and then they have Adley, which are not nicknames. They're just what people call them. They're their first names, but they have Mountie on the banner as well. My dad goes, Mountie? Whoever called him that? And I was like, it's a Brandon Hyde thing. It's what that's what he calls him.
He doesn't like it. When he got called that by, I think it was Bordick.
Yeah.
Or not Bordick. He got called Mountie by somebody.
Yeah.
And he rolled his eyes. He doesn't like being called that. So, if Grayson Rodriguez doesn't want to be called Gray Rod, why would we call him Gray Rod? But also, why would you like G-Rod better than Gray Rod?
Yeah, I like Gray Rod better. Anyway.
But then there's A-Rod, and A-Rod is one of the biggest pieces of excrement that's ever played. So, I don't know, man. We've spent 10 minutes on this. Whatever. So the Orioles, they're 4-3 to start the year. The bullpen has left a lot to be desired. Let's talk a little bit about that bullpen. And, again, you can really only trust Coulomb, Cianel Perez to a certain extent. He wasn't good in the second inning that he pitched yesterday, but I also think it's because he doesn't get 2 ups in a game very often.
Yeah.
And then there's also Felix Bautista. Everybody else is kind of not off to a great start. And let's take a look at this bullpen right now. So you have Felix Bautista, 2.45 ERA with 3 saves and 4 opportunities. Brian Baker, 5.79 ERA in 4 games. Cianel Perez, 4.15 in 4 games. Keegan Aiken, 7.71. Logan Gillespie, 4.50. Austin Voth, 15.43. Tyler Wells has more innings than anybody out of the bullpen, and he hasn't allowed a run or a hit because he went 5 innings.
Got those 5.
Danny Coulomb, 3 outings, 3 innings, no earned runs. Mike Baumann, 3.38. I would have liked to see Mike Baumann come in for the 8th inning.
Yeah, you haven't seen him too much yet.
So I look at this, and who do you really like? Who do you trust? I'm not confident anytime I see Aiken or Brian Baker being brought into a ball game?
Neither of those two. Logan Gillespie, haven't really seen enough, and then after yesterday, seeing him in person, I wasn't really impressed. I mean, threw 95, 96, but he's okay. Keegan Aiken, definitely not. I don't know. There's not many guys right now. Danny Coulomb was a really good under-the-radar pickup by the Orioles. They got him, I think, for cash considerations. Am I right in saying that? From the
Yes.
From the Twins at the last minute. They were going to put him on the opening day roster, and then they traded him to Baltimore. So that was a really nice under-the-radar pickup. A guy who was a 3.94 career ERA coming into 23, and then also a guy who's a lefty, what 34 years old. He's been around for a while. Really good under-the-radar pickup. I love that, and he's pitched pretty well so far.
He's a good pitcher in his career. He's been hurt a little bit.
Yeah, and Felix Bautista, we've seen kind of what he can do. I don't really expect, with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball and the splitter that he throws, regression is not a word that comes to my mind for him. I think he's going to continue to be dominant.
The way that he pitches,
it's hard not to be.
It's not fair,
right?
To hitters, how good he can be. I mean, he comes at you with a 101-mile-an-hour fastball and then throws an 85-mile-an-hour splitter that falls off a table.
Yeah, I mean, generally the guys who you can tell are going to regress significantly are the guys that kind of nibble, maybe get a lot of calls their way. They don't throw necessarily hard. The stuff isn't that good. You expect regression, but a guy who throws 100 and has a splitter that's probably top 3 in the game, I don't really see that happening. He's going to hit around. There will be some days where he'll blow saves. It will happen. It will happen. Maybe be prepared for it. But
unless your name's Zach Britton, the year's 2016.
Unless you're Zach Britton, which is an anomaly.
It's the greatest season.
Right.
It's the greatest relief season in history. Baseball.
It's never going to happen again, most likely. But Felix Bautista, I do have confidence in. And then Perez, again, I do expect a little bit of a step back for him this year, but he's pitched well so far this year. And, maybe bringing him in for 2 innings is too much, but having him as a 1-inning reliever in the 7th or the 8th wouldn't be the worst thing in the world at all. I think he's a pretty confidence-inducing pitcher. But the rest of them are big question marks. Austin Voth, I still don't know what to make of him. I really don't.
He's got that elite spin rate on his fastball and his curveball.
His curveball's good last year.
He's throwing what they call a slutter, I guess.
I think sweeper is the correct name for it. I don't know.
I heard slutter because
I heard
slider
that
cutter, but maybe it's a sweeper. I don't know. Well, Kyle Gibson's the one who's throwing the sweeper.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But both they said that he just hasn't been able to find the command of the pitches yet to this point. He's going to get an opportunity to get that ERA down from 15.43, but he wasn't good in spring.
Yeah.
And he's been giving up some home runs in spring and now kind of like Dean Kramer. So I'm interested to see if he can bounce back a little bit. He was one of those guys who I think I saw a regression coming because when he pitched, he had one good year in Washington where he made 9 starts and he had like a 3.7 or a 3.8 ERA. Yeah. And then he was terrible again.
Really bad.
Yeah.
He had an 11 ERA, something along those lines. It was horrible.
But maybe he's one of those guys who just the more he pitches, the better he gets.
It's possible.
I don't know. And he doesn't have any options, so it's not like they can send him down to AAA. I don't know. They really need Givens back. They really need Tate back. Givens, like Nathan Ruiz said, he's gonna throw a side session today, and Hyde's gonna let them know how that went today. Maybe he could be back sooner than later.
Yeah.
And the thing with Tyler Wells, and you said it about DL Hall. I think DL Hall's got more upside as a starter than Tyler Wells does, but Tyler Wells is a good pitcher. He's a good starter.
I mean, I guess if we're looking purely at ceilings, then DL Hall probably has a bigger one.
I think he has a higher ceiling than just about anybody on the staff. But
can't agree with that.
I mean, Ryan Ripken faced him and faced Grayson and said that's
fair.
DL Hall's better.
But can DL Hall pitch more than 4 innings? Can he? I want to see it. I've never seen. I don't know if DL Hall has ever gone 7 or 8 in his. And maybe they won't let him. Maybe that's product of them not wanting him to. But I want to see him do that.
Yeah.
Then we can start talking about that.
When do you ever see Grayson go 7 or 8?
I mean, again, and it's probably because they limited him.
Well,
but I'm a
lot
more confident Grayson can do that because he's had the innings, he's had the bulk of work over the past few years that shows you he's been able to do that.
And that's not to say that I think that ultimately DL Hall is a better overall pitcher than Grayson. I think he's got better stuff and better upside if he can ever hone his craft. But Grayson is already one of those guys who's kind of already honing that craft, and DL Hall's kind of fallen behind a little bit, but. I don't know. It's one of those things that we know is going to work itself out, but they do need to find a way to get the back end of this bullpen pitching well. And I did this little project the other day when I had some downtime where I figured out which reliever should be pitching when, because it blows my mind that Brandon Hyde is using Perez as a 7th inning guy and Baker as his 8th inning guy. It's blowing my mind that he continues to do that.
Yeah.
And it shows that Perez or Mike Baumann should be the 8th inning guy.
Yeah.
That
realistically, Michael Givens.
But I'm talking about for the guys that are there right now. The Austin Voth and Brian Baker is their best 5th inning option. Voth is their best 6th inning option. And then your 7th inning guy should be Coulomb or Baumann. Your 8th inning guy should be Perez or Baumann. Your closer should be Felix Bautista. And your guy who can pitch whenever you kind of really need him is Logan Gillespie. And yet we continue to see Keegan Aiken in the 7th inning when he does pitch. You continue to see Brian Baker in the 8th inning when he does pitch. And CNL Perez, who had one of the best seasons of any Orioles reliever ever last year. 1.40 ERA in 66 games. You continue to see him pitching in the 7th inning. Right now, that's going to be his role, and I guess you want him to continue to pitch in his role. So I guess I can make peace with that. But right now, he's the guy who you should be able to trust the most in the 8th inning to bridge you over to Felix Bautista in the 9th. But look, when Givens and Tate are back,
right?
You're going to have Givens and Tate pitching the 6th. Well, maybe Perez is your 8th inning guy anyway then. Because you're going to have Tate. You can pitch usually in the 7th inning. It's usually when you want to throw him. Givens, you can throw him 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th inning.
Right.
He can be that guy. The bullpen's going to get a lot better when those guys come back. We just gotta get there.
Huge difference. I mean, those guys. You don't necessarily look at relief pitchers and say these are the most important players on the team. But those two, you can already tell how much of an impact they would have. I mean, based on the numbers they had last year, of course. I mean, who knows? One of them could fall off a cliff. We don't know. But in reality, those two guys are huge missing pieces, and probably the Orioles have a better record right now if one of those guys is in the bullpen. If just one of those guys.
If Ryan McKenna can make a catch on left field.
If Ryan McKenna can catch a ball, yeah.
Look, they have 2 losses this year that I think were legitimate losses. The loss to
definitely
Boston in Game 3, and the loss to Texas in Game 3.
Yep.
Where
they should be 5-2.
They should be 5-2. And I mean that's just the way it is.
It's not like it's a little different though in this situation because you're not saying maybe if the Orioles had just gotten this hit there, if Adley Rutschman had driven this run here, he dropped the ball. There was nothing a play that's made, probably 999 times out of 1,000.
It's funny you say that because it's exactly what Austin Hayes said. He said, McKenna catches that ball 999 times out of 1,000.
I mean, you're not probably honestly. It's probably more like it's more than that. I mean, the odds of him dropping that ball are incredibly small. So
and apparently he took a one step further than he should have.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he took like one step further than he should have, and so he had to reach a little bit behind him. And you could see when they slow it down and show you the replay, he's looking up at the ball, and as it's starting to come down, he looks forward. He's not watching it. And for the people who are saying you got to catch with 2 hands,
nobody does that in Major League Baseball.
A, nobody does that. B, nobody does that in my league. C, you don't catch with 2 hands to secure the baseball.
Right.
You catch with 2 hands to quickly transfer the ball from your glove to your throwing hand. That's why you field a ground ball with 2 hands. J.J. Hardy always fielded a ground ball with 1 hand, but you don't have your second hand there to close the glove.
Machado did too. Always 1 hand.
You have your second hand there
for the transfer,
and it's always thumb over thumb. So you catch the ball, thumb over thumb, and then you slide the ball into your throwing hand. That's why you catch it with 2 hands. It's not to close the glove for all those helicopter guys out there. 2 hands. 2 hands. Yeah, shut the hell up.
One of my biggest pet peeves from playing high school baseball is that I would catch balls one-handed in the outfield, and I would be eviscerated by my coaches. We'd have 1 out, nobody on base, and I catch a ball one-handed, and 2 hands, 2 hands. It's like, for what? I'm not making any throw. I mean, for all the people saying that about Ryan McKenna, same deal. There's really no reason he had to go 2 hands there. So he made a mistake, at the end of the day.
He dropped an easy fly ball last year early in the season.
I remember that.
And then we never saw an issue with it again.
Yeah.
I thought that it was I feel like he may have done this on purpose. He caught a fly ball. It may have been even to end the game the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And the ball gets hit out to him. And it was a similar pop-up in left field, and he caught it the exact same way on the ball that he did with the ball that he dropped.
Yeah.
Caught it next to his ear with one hand at about shoulder height. It was he called it the same way. I'm like, this MFer. He did it the exact same way.
It's like Chris Davis trying to spite Jim Palmer with the change batting stance after he criticized him, and he changes it for one at bat and then goes back to to what he was doing that wasn't working.
Now for Brian Baker, I will say this: in his first outing, 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, 3 runs.
It wasn't good.
He hasn't given up. He's given up 1 hit, no walks, no runs since then. So his last 3 outings, he's gone 4 innings, 1 hit, no walks, 4 strikeouts. So he's been good the last 3 outings. It was really that one that made him bad. Now what I realized here is that the Orioles as a team last year allowed 34% of inherited runners to score, which was 3% higher than the league average. So I'm wondering how many because I think he gave up a couple of hits and let an inherited runner score at some point after that first game. But let's see, pitching role as a reliever. Where is this? I can.
While you're trying to find that, the Yankees just made some moves weekend and out since they're playing in this series against the Orioles. They've recalled Johnny Brito, who I believe is starting tonight, as I just said. They placed Josh Donaldson on the 10-day injured list. They placed Jonathan Loaizaga on the 15-day injured list. They signed Willie Calhoun to a major league contract, put him on the active roster, and then transferred Tommy Kahnle to the 60-day injured list. So a lot of moves going on for the Yankees. But Josh Donaldson probably, actually, I would say Loaizaga is a pretty significant loss as well. 15 days for Loaizaga.
I don't think Josh Donaldson is a big loss. For me, Josh Donaldson
he's not a huge one.
should
Volpe off to a very slow start, though.
No, you knew that was coming.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's no way that he was
going
to come in and do what he did in spring training.
No.
Brian Baker's allowed 2 of his 4 inherited runners to score to this point. So that's something to think about there, even though, because he could have given up no runs, but I believe that the 1 hit that he gave up in his second game allowed an inherited runner to score.
Yeah. I believe you're correct, yeah.
Yeah. So you actually 2. Yeah, it was a 2-run base hit that he gave up as soon as he came in. Like there were runners on second and third. He came in and gave up a base hit and 2 runs scored in that Game 3 loss to Boston. But other than that, he's been fine, I guess. And he was their best reliever down the stretch last year. So that's somebody who you can kind of look at and say, maybe that can bleed over to this year, and he can continue to improve. And look, he has been pitching better. He still makes me nervous because he failed so many times last year before being good the last 6 weeks of the season.
There's a lot of uncertainty. That's the biggest thing. With this whole bullpen, there is significant uncertainty across the board. And when Dylan Tate and Michael Givens are here, it should provide a little less uncertainty. But until then, the timetables are pretty questionable to me. I don't know. I think Givens is going to come back relatively soon. You would think next 2 weeks or so. And then Dylan Tate's, I believe, end of May. So you've got a little bit of time to wait. And it's going to be interesting to see how they keep handling this bullpen and using these guys in different situations. But Brian Baker is a little too high leverage for me right now. I wish Cionel Perez would get a little more of those options or those opportunities in the 8th inning instead of the 7th. But that's Brendan Hyde's decision. Maybe analytics plays a part, and I'm okay with that if it does.
Yeah, bullpen's got to settle it down a little bit for sure. We got to catch our final break. I want to remind you that Birdland Sports is owned by Josh Soroka from the Section 336 podcast. He is behind Birdland Sports. He knows what fellow fans want and has created an amazing collection of merchandise just for you. From the popular Birds Are Coming tees to the unique player cartoon shirts and World Series prediction designs, Birdland Sports has everything you need to show off your O's pride. And with prices more affordable than the big guys, you can support a small business run by one of your own. Don't wait. Head to birdlandsports.com today and show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports. When we come back in, the Bet Around, Take to Rake, and Final Thoughts. That's next on the Bat Around.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports? As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the Birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
Harford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Harford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
All right, welcome back into the bat around. No more ads to read. We only had a few today, so
I was preparing to write one down and didn't happen. It's habit.
Yeah.
I pick up the pen, I go over to the piece of paper, and no
so,
ads to read.
Today's show brought to you by Zach and I.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Sounds good. Paul Valley.
Paul, I still
here for you.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
Go ahead. Never mind. Nothing to say.
You still think what?
No, I still think it's crazy that I saw you at the Orioles game yesterday because
and didn't say hi.
We were talking. Well, okay, I thought you were with your dad, so I didn't want to.
Not my dad. Was my best friend's dad.
Correct. I thought it looked like your dad.
You know what happens when you think?
What happens when you think, Paul?
I don't know. It's not the same thing as what happens when you assume.
No, but it's just funny. I mean, there were 45,000 people there. We were sitting in the sections next to each other, which is just wild.
My barber was 4 rows in front of me in the same section. He came over and said hello.
There you go.
I ran into...
Said, Paul, you need a haircut. Get in here. I need money.
I need money.
Yeah.
And I said, me too.
I would have also said me too.
That's from Half Baked.
Don't watch that.
So yeah, I saw him. Apparently you saw me and didn't say hello. I ran into one of the catchers on my baseball team, Rob. I see Rob every year at opening day.
Oh, really?
We don't ever text him and be like, hey, let's meet up. I just managed to run into him every year on opening day. 2 years ago, there was a pop-up hit in the first inning, and it bounced off my hand, and I turned around, and he was the first person pointing at me from his section.
That's funny.
Last year, I ran into him in the concourse as we were leaving, and then yesterday, somebody touches my butt. Not my butt, the crevasse.
Yeah.
And I turned around and didn't see anybody, and I was like, all right. But then I saw Rob's wife walk by, but didn't recognize her as his wife. I was like, that kind of looks like Jen. And then I turn back around, and I'm watching the game, and then I feel the same touch on my butt again. I'm like, what the hell? I turn around, and sure enough, it's Rob. And I'm like, it was Jen. She's standing there smiling at me. He's behind me, molesting me. It was
wow.
It was a weird situation, man. Big Rod. It was just a weird, but I run into him every year on opening day without fail.
Yeah,
I ran into 2 guys. I ran into my partner, one of my partner's best friends at the mortgage firm. I ran into one of his best friends, a home inspector who I've met now 3 different times. I ran into him at the tailgate.
I saw like 14 people I knew. It was unreal.
I see tons of people I know.
Oh yeah,
all the time. At Camden Yards. You know, randomly, back in 2003, I went down to Universal Studios in Orlando with a friend. with his family because his brother was actually playing in like the Little League, in their version of the Little League World Series.
Okay.
So we were down there for 9 days, and I ran into a guy I graduated high school with at Universal Studios.
Wow.
What are the chances in Florida, amongst tens of thousands of people, you run into somebody you went to high school with?
That's actually not. I've had stuff like that happen before too. My 6th grade math teacher. I was in Outer Banks, North Carolina, and she was just in the restaurant, sitting a few seats away with me. Stuff like that happens all the time. I always see Ryan Blake too. I'm always sitting in the same section as Ryan Blake at Orioles games. I don't know why that is, but I'll look around. I'll be like, "That's Ryan Blake."
Is that where Ryan was sitting yesterday? Was he there?
I didn't see Ryan yesterday
for
the first time in a long time.
You don't always see him.
Not always, but last year I was at like 5 Orioles games. He was at every single one too.
Yeah.
And he was sitting in like 2 sections away from me or in mine.
I'll tell you, one of the things, so he likes to go to Orioles games by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And
he was always there with his girlfriend, I believe. Or now fiance, I believe, correct?
Fiance now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to go by himself anymore.
Yeah.
But I went to a number of Orioles games by myself last year because I had the 13-game plan on Sundays, and a lot of people were doing stuff with their families and whatnot. And if I didn't have anything to do on a Sunday, I'd be like, screw it, I'll just go to the game by myself. So I probably went to 4 or 5, actually, Orioles games by myself last year, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. The first time I went by myself last year, I did not enjoy it. And it was the day that we thought Adley Rutschman was coming up. It was May 16th. I had bought 2 seats for the game. I had asked you to come with me. You couldn't make it. Somebody else I asked to come with me. They couldn't make it. So I ended up just going by myself because my wife couldn't come either. I sat in the front row of the rooftop deck bar.
Yeah.
And it was like 70 degrees. It was in May. It was May 16th. I watched Bradish warm up in the bullpen, and I watched him throw 6 pitches, and 5 of them were nowhere near the strike zone. I was like, this is going to be a rough day for him. Sure enough, he threw like 34 pitches in the first inning.
Yeah.
17 balls, 17 strikes. Got out of it without giving up a run, but he wasn't good. He ended up giving up like 3 or 4 runs in the 4th inning. The Orioles took the loss. They were never in it. It was one of the few times that I actually left the game early because I was getting cold. It was really breezy up there. It hadn't quite warmed up yet. It was 70 degrees to start the game, but it dropped. And I didn't have a good time. I'm like, man, coming to a game by yourself kind of sucks. But then I did it like 3 or 4 more times and had a blast just watching Orioles baseball by myself. Of course, people are looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm talking to the players like by myself. Like, come on, what are you doing? Why are you starting at third base, Odor? Or why are you swinging at that pitch, Odor? Or why do you suck, Odor? Like, that was just me. Because I hate Rougned Odor.
Yeah, I'm working on making a living out of going to baseball games by myself. So
I
do a lot of that, and I can tell you sometimes it's more fun than others. But
if you like being social, I don't recommend going by yourself. But if you go to the games because you like being there and seeing the games in person, it's a lot of fun because it's just baseball and there's nothing to distract you. You're just watching the game. And I had a blast doing that. We also had a blast on the bet around last week. We told you to take Austin Hayes at plus 520 to homer, and he did. We told you to take Alex Verdugo at plus 1060 to homer, and he did. We are 2 for 2 on the bet around. I'm going to tell you right now, my 2 bets for today, and eventually I'm going to start doing one Orioles bet and then 1 bet for the rest of the league that I think is a good play. But this is 2 bets from today's game. You have Cole Irvin going against Johnny Brito.
Yeah.
No Orioles batters have ever faced Johnny Brito. So it's one of those situations you always see the Orioles face rookie pitchers and really struggle.
Yeah.
On the other side of things, Cole Irvin pitches to a lot of contact.
He does.
I'm taking Aaron Judge plus 2,900 to homer twice today.
Whoa.
Plus 2,900 to homer twice.
Okay.
I'm also taking the over at minus 115 of 8 runs because I think that today could be one of those games where the Orioles might lose 6-3.
Yeah, it's a good possibility. With Cole Irvin on the mound and the way he looked in the first game, I don't have a ton of confidence in Cole Irvin at the moment. So
because it's not that I don't think that he can pitch well.
I do think that.
It's that he's a contact pitcher.
Right.
He's consistently in the strike zone, and he's facing Aaron Judge.
Really tough lineup. Up and down.
Really tough lineup to face. And I know that the Orioles have really, really struggled in the past when they're facing pitchers they've never seen before.
Yeah.
Now, this is a different Orioles ball club who is in the top third of the American League in a lot of offensive categories right now. So that could be, like I said, they're second in on-base percentage, second in slugging percentage, second in OPS. They're first in steals. They're third in home runs. I think they're fourth in team average. So they are a much more formidable offensive ball club to this point this year than I've seen in the past from them. But even still, I have to see it to believe it when it comes to facing a pitcher they've never faced before. So
I agree.
And Brito threw 5 shutout innings in his first start.
Wow.
And a 0.60 whip with 6 Ks. So I'm thinking that Brito might be shutting the Orioles down. I'm taking the over on 8 runs because it could be a big offensive night for the Yankees. So we'll see there. All right, take to rake. Time for take to rake. These numbers are updated.
Yeah.
I took Ryan Mountcastle. Zach took Adley Rutschman. Mountcastle this past week, 7 for 25, 2 doubles, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. So basically, anytime he got out, it was a strikeout.
Yeah.
He slashed 280, 296, 600, 896. Adley Rutschman, 4 for 25, 1 RBI, 3 walks, 6 Ks, a 160, 250, 160, 410 slash line.
Yeah.
I won.
Not good.
I go to 2-0 on the season. Zach, you were off.
2-0, I guess we should say. Because there's
I
don't know how that works, but
we usually have our guests come on in the 11 o'clock hour. We can start booking them for 11:45 if you want, so that we can do the guest thing. So I'm 2-0 to this point of the season. Zach often running to a 4th consecutive losing take to rake season.
Look, Adley Rutschman didn't get it done for me this week.
He did not.
You know what? What can you do?
Not take Adley Rutschman the week after he has a big week. I think it's probably smart to not.
He's gonna have a lot of big weeks.
He's gonna. Yeah, well, I think it's smart to not take any player the week after they have a big week because if they go 8 for 17 one week.
If that's the case with Adley Rutschman, then Adley Rutschman isn't as good as we thought he was.
Well, that's a good point. That's a fantastic point. I don't know. You just gotta play the odds, I guess. The better round. Play the odds.
Play the odds.
There with take to rake. So that means I get to pick first. Who am I taking this week?
Rutschman on the board, Gunnar Henderson on the board. Really, anybody.
You know who I'm going to take?
You could take James McCann when he comes off the injured list.
He went 2 for 4. In his,
yeah, he did.
In his
Aberdeen,
rehab start the other day. I'm going to take Cedric Mullins.
Okay.
Mullins, he got off to a hot start. He leads the team in RBIs, but the batting average is down to 207. I still think, and they got Oakland coming up, and Oakland is not a good ball club. They have a 4-game series there, and then they go to Chicago, I believe it is. Yeah. I'm going to take Cedric Mullins to have a bounce-back week here, so I'll take Cedric.
Give me Jorge Mateo. I'm going Jorge Mateo. He's hit well so far. I hope he stays hot, and the power's been coming a little bit for him. I don't really feel confident in Gunnar Henderson at the moment. Can't take Adley Rutschman. Your other options, maybe Adam Frazier would probably be a good pick, but I'm going to go Mateo.
Okay, Mateo. So you're taking Mateo. I'm taking Cedric Mullins.
No.
Final thoughts. I went first last week. You go ahead.
Well, I think my final thought revolves around the Orioles letting things play out and things figuring themselves out. There's going to be a lot of roster crunch things that are going to happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks. You've got, obviously, the most significant one being Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez. These will figure themselves out. You know, there will be guys moved out of the bullpen. I think Logan Gillespie probably doesn't have a ton of time left because Michael Givens probably takes his spot sooner rather than later, or Grayson Rodriguez goes to the bullpen, takes his spot, or Tyler Wells does. This stuff works itself out. I think, worrying about it and seeing, one of your favorites go down and worrying about that, it's not worth worrying about because, again, these things will figure themselves out. And we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. It's going to be an interesting few weeks as the Orioles look to take on some better teams. They've started off, I would say, with Texas and Boston a little bit easier. Now it's going to get a little bit more difficult for them. So we'll see how these things play out.
My final thought is that I think Grayson Rodriguez is off and running.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it just goes to show how important it is to be with your big league pitching coach. I think that what Chris Holt and Darren Holmes can do with the pitching staff, and we saw it last year, what they can do with a guy like Grayson Rodriguez, where he really struggled in that first inning. He came back in the dugout, they made adjustments, and then he dominated a really good Texas Rangers lineup the next 4 innings. I think Grayson Rodriguez is in the rotation, and I think he's in the rotation to stay. I don't think he's going back down. I think he's here to stay, and I think we're going to see him make a strong running for Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to have that kind of season. So that's my final thought. I want to thank thank all of our guests, Stan the Fan Charles for his weekly segment. Really want to thank Nathan Ruiz for coming on and doing a great job as always on the show. Want to thank Zach for the work that he does as our producer and co-host of the show. Thanks to all the fans and all the sponsors. Without either of you, we don't have a show. And I do want, again, to send my deepest, most heartfelt condolences to Justin Labor and his family as we lost Justin at Roar from 44 on Twitter. We lost him this past week after his long, I don't know how he died. I don't know if it was from the long COVID or what the issue was that caused him to pass away. But warmest, most heartfelt condolences to Justin and his family as they deal with a terrible, terrible loss. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will talk to you